Hello. Good morning. Oh, no.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. Guys have the last week of Ignite here, so this is awesome. This is exciting, isn't it?
Sir.
How'd everybody make out this weekend? Anybody have anything good that happened to them this weekend?
I listed a mobile home and got a $200,000 dual agency another listing on top of it. So
that's good.
pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
How'd you come about on those? Like what led to those?
So the mobile homes, I actually lived in a mobile home and ended up working with the owner of the park, and I've listed 12 mobile homes for him since. And yeah, so I didn't take my coach's advice on that one, but it worked out because I ended up just getting known as kind of the mobile home guy. So
okay.
So yeah.
What was the advice by the coach there that you?
I was just right when I first started, they just said that, it's a lot of work. It's just as much as a regular single family and less commission. But, I took it as, dual agency. I took it as an opportunity and it just worked out. So really good stuff from it.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great. Very good.
Thanks.
Okay. So what else? What other good things happened to folks this week? Anybody have anything else? Any other good things that they want to report? Want to chat about?
It's quiet.
Yeah. Tough Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. What's your name?
My name's Darren. Actually, yep, I forgot.
Darren.
I changed this here. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Has anybody been implementing anything that they heard here in Ignite? Any ahas that they put in practice that have actually paid dividends for
them? Unfortunately for me, this is my first Ignite class, so.
All right. Well, I would suggest too that, it's always good to take it once, see what you have there, implement it, and then come back and just take certain classes or maybe even take everything again that you think works for you, because there's a lot of valuable information in here. I mean, you're basically talking about a month's worth of information. Granted, it's half days, but for the most part, you're getting pretty much top education on how to start your real estate business. More often than not, when you go to other firms, you walk in and they either hand you scripts or they say, all right, just start talking to your database. How do I do that? What do I say? How many times, you have questions galore and there's nobody there to answer. So this is a great foundation building tool that you have that's going to help you to really get your business off the ground.
Awesome.
All right, let's see here. Just going to post this on Facebook. Anybody else have anything good that happened to them this weekend? Doesn't even have to be real estate related, you know, just anything good.
Well, I do have one thing.
Okay.
I was telling you about an investor friend of mine that I was working with. Okay. She's building a nice little empire for herself.
Okay.
And what she wanted me to do, actually, she was an old ex-girlfriend who's dating, I guess, one of my friends now. It's a complicated story, but it's true. Dating one of my friends now. And years ago, we both realized we liked real estate. We actually did a couple of things together as far as buying a house, renovating it, flipping, and actually using one that's still being rented right now.
Okay.
My friend, he's into real estate too. And the weird story how they met was on a dating site. And I knew the dating site that he was on, and I had noticed that my ex-girlfriend was on the same site. So I said to him one day, I said, "You're going to meet such and such. Just know that we did date if you do meet her." Okay. He goes, "Yeah, whatever, all right," something like that. And I kind of knew they would be attracted to each other because he almost looks like me. We're almost just alike. We even look alike. So I said, she's going to be attracted to him and they're going to meet. I just knew it. One day, maybe a few months later after they met, they found out that they knew me, and they were like, "Oh shit." So, which was no big deal because we were over at that time for maybe about a year or so. So I didn't have any problems. So like I said, they both like real estate, so on and so forth. Anyway, fast forward to now, I guess in the couple of years since they've known each other, they've built a couple of houses and sold a couple of houses, which is cool. Like I said, they're building their little empire. So I was kind of surprised when about a week ago she called me and wanted to still work with me. I was like, and I think my friend told her that I just had my realtor license and I'm in the business. So I appreciate her calling and giving me the business. Now, she puts him in charge of new constructions because her organization, she's got new constructions, renovations, flips, and rentals and Airbnbs. So I jumped right in. I found her a nice Airbnb prospect, which she didn't want to see, which I think was a mistake. And land, I'm looking for them. Now, the problem is my friend Stan, who she puts in charge of new constructions, doesn't want to leave out of his area of comfort, which is the New Haven area. So there's very few properties there that I found for them that meet their criteria. They want public water, public sewer, blah, blah, blah. Me, I'm thinking, well, the real money is in areas, a lot of money is in areas where you're going to need septic and well. So I believe, I was telling my friend that she should start adapting to be able to construct, with those areas. And so learn to deal with septic and well. And I'm sending a whole bunch of properties, good prospects. And me and my friend got into a little argument because he's like, "I don't want to go outside my area." I'm like, "But you kind of you're going to have to get out of your area because it's dry in your area right now. And this is where you got to expand to. And now's the time to do it." I'm telling them comps, you can't pay attention to the comps from 5 or 4 years ago because things listed now 7-10% over, what they probably were 5 years ago when that house was sold. So the comp's not going to be the same. And I was telling them just in that Airbnb area alone, the house right next door just came on the market last week for $182,000. And that property that I was showing them was only $92,000, and it's actually a better property, bigger too. So we had a little falling out, me and my friend, and I said, "Well, I'm just going to not talk to him for a while."
All right. Just what you can do is this sounds like it's a lot more involved and something that we can handle, at least at the moment here too. So tell you what, why don't you and I chat offline? We can go into more of the details about that, and we can actually figure out like a way to approach that and maybe try to capitalize on that situation. How does that sound?
Sound good. I was just trying to ban her because it seems like everybody No drive. So
Or what
just
are some other
rambling.
options?
Well, I appreciate that. I
Chicken.
simply appreciate that. That's excellent. And it gives us the opportunity to
Just
actually
in case we
get
don't do
some
spaghetti, I need to give her a couple options.
So thank you for that. But you and I can chat offline. That's fine. We can take,
Okay.
sounds like it's pretty involved. We went from like 90-day fiance into, more of the, HGTV stuff here too. So that's fine. That's fine. I appreciate you sharing at least that point, but you and I can chat about that. So, but
Okay.
thank you for that. So good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you joining. Tim, thanks for hopping on. I appreciate that. I'll be here for at least half the session up to about 10:30. And then, Tim, do you know, is Aaron going to be hopping on, I think, at that point?
Aaron is off today, so they're stuck with you and then me.
Okay.
So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to promise there's cake after intermission, kids. Everybody's going to stay tuned. Just hang out with me. Hang out with me.
Ooh, gotta love that. See, you stick with it to this point through Ignite, and now you finally get cake. You didn't have that for the first part. Now you're getting cake. There's nothing better than that. So,
well, friendly reminder too, because so Darren's today. We're going to wrap up in the next couple of days, and then I believe Thursday or Friday, and I'm not sure if we'll use this link or we'll just put it in the Keller Williams New England Ignite page. We're going to do sort of a tech wrap up, talking about questions about Command, Facebook business pages, and just to put a bow on questions as well. So the next 3 days we wrap up actual sessions. Then Thursday or Friday there'll be an additional segment with a little more tech with one of our Market Center tech trainers.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, getting as much information as you can about Command is fantastic. That's going to be definitely worthwhile there too. So thank everybody for joining me. I appreciate that. Corinne was supposed to be teaching today. Unfortunately, she is under the weather. She has not been feeling good. So she asked us to step in. So we'll be taking over at least at this point. But today we're going to be talking about negotiations and how to negotiate, not just the deal, but everything that goes into real estate, at least at this point. So just to reintroduce myself to most folks out there, my name is Darren Geddick. I am the productivity coach here for Keller Williams Legacy Partners. We're in the central Connecticut area, the greater Hartford area. Been with Keller Williams for 2 years. You might recognize me from an off Broadway production of South Pacific, but beyond that, I've been in real estate since that time, and life has been good, at least at this point. So we are actually going to just jump right in, get right into it, because we know negotiations are a huge part of what we do in real estate. Okay, we all know how important that is. So let me actually share my screen so we can get into what we're going to be going over today. All right. Can everybody see the screen here as it comes up? As my computer chooses to take advantage of Monday, be very slow here. So, okay. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about negotiations. Okay. So ideally, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how to break down different tactics to use in negotiations. Okay. We're going to actually look at counter tactics as well. What are the things that we can do that not only when we're in the middle of it, okay, but when we're actually trying to, deal with negotiations, if we're the listing agent, how do we have counter tactics for that? We're also going to be talking about the negotiation strategy of the 3 Ps, right? Prepare, present, and position. So these are things that are going to become important to you as you go throughout the process, okay? Now, as you can see right here, these are just the essential elements that successful agents use to basically grow their business and run their business. And negotiation is one of the biggest things right here. Negotiate contracts, but negotiation, I would even say, runs even beyond that too. It's not just negotiating in contracts, but there's so many other parts to the real estate basically process that we negotiate as well. All right. And when we look at negotiations, I mean, typically when you hear about real estate negotiations, sometimes they tend to be nasty, right? We hear stories about how this person did that and that person did this and this firm did that. But if you want to incorporate our belief system from Keller Williams, it's a Y4C2TES, right? The whole belief system, all truncated in that nice big acronym that we have there. If you're in your market center, you're going to see that in some wall at some point in that market center. But the first one, anybody know what the W stands for in that belief system? What is that?
Win-win.
Win-win, right? Okay. We believe in win-wins when we're at Keller Williams. We're not out to sit there and to belittle somebody on the other side or to make them, feel terrible or to have their client lose out massively. What we're trying to do is we're trying to negotiate in the best interest of basically our clients, but we want to make it a win-win for everybody, right? At the end of the day, when that transaction closes, right? Somebody's walking away with keys and somebody's walking away with money. And we hope it's the right person at that point, right? So for us, it's about making sure that we can find common ground, that we can make sure that it's a win-win for everybody that's involved. Okay, so here's a breakdown of what we're going to be covering today. We're going to break down the common points of negotiation. We're going to examine the 3 Ps, the approach to negotiations we just talked about there. We're going to analyze counter tactics, okay? When people are negotiating with us, how do we go and use counter tactics to negotiate against that? We're going to role play, and we're going to employ the 3 Ps as we talked about, okay? And then as we always do, we're going to recap, create our success list, and then we're going to jump into our daily success habits. All right. So in real estate, okay, when do we negotiate? Anybody want to take a stab at that? When do we negotiate?
From the cold call to the close, really.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. When else?
From the very beginning.
Right. In what sense?
Well, we're negotiating our position and gaining their trust.
Mm-hmm. Right. When we're talking with a buyer right off the bat and we're getting them to sign an agency contract, right, or a right to represent contract, or a seller, go on that listing appointment, handling their objections, right? And then we also have negotiations between agent to agent. If we're on one side of the transaction, we negotiate with the other agent, right? Sometimes we're going back to our buyers saying, hey, this is what they're proposing. This is what I think. Okay, so then we negotiate again with our clients, right? Okay. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to basically, essentially get the best out of everything so that everybody is happy when they walk away, which, sometimes is, a little tricky, but for the most part, nobody's going to ever get 100% of what they're looking for, but how do we negotiate on behalf of our clients to make sure that they're getting exactly what they want, exactly what they need? All right. So take a look at that first question. How can your ability to negotiate affect the outcome of the deal?
Well, it can either put it like more in your client's favor or less in your client's favor, or more in your favor or more against it. So like it's a delicate thing that you want to have good control of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're not strong in your negotiation skills, and if you haven't done your research and you haven't prepared properly, okay, if another agent is basically proposing things and coming at you, you may play defense. You may be on your heels trying to figure out what's going on. All right. And that could be to the detriment of your client, depending on which side of the transaction you're on. Okay. And how about negotiation in everyday life, right? What are some ways that you negotiate now? Or what are some areas that you actually negotiate, in different parts of your life at this point?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Time management, I consider negotiations.
Okay. And who's that a negotiation with?
Myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could be negotiations with yourself, could be negotiations with your family too, right? Depending on how sprawling that real estate time is in your schedule there, right? Okay. How about some skills? What are some skills? If we take a look at real estate, we take a look at the personal side. What are some skills that the best negotiators possess, as they say?
Let's say communication,
Mm-hmm.
being able to, express yourself and have the other person understand you and be a good listener.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Flexibility as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that the listening side of it, as you'd mentioned, Muriel, I think that that's the key thing right there, is listen to what's being said and see how that you can use that in your client's favor. Okay. Which comes to the last part here. Why is asking questions important when negotiating?
You want to understand the positioning behind, or the motivation behind the person's position, rather than necessarily just what they're putting forward.
Right, exactly. How does that come into play? If you're a buyer's agent today and you're working with buyers and they want to put an offer in on a home, okay, what are some things that you can do?
So in my experience, a few years back when my husband and I were buying a home, our agent went back in to talk to, it was actually for sale by owner, and just chatted up the woman. And she kind of, laid her cards down when she said, we really want to be out of here by June 15th. And so my husband and I were able to deliver on her, date, but we got like $75,000 off asking price. But because we could come in on her date, she accepted our deal.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Asking the seller, what's important. And that was a good thing. Your agent went in, asked them, okay, what's it going to take? What's important to them? How can we make this work? What things are they looking for? All right. All of that is important, especially in this situation if you're working with buyers, right? Find out exactly what's going on, right? Exactly. All right. Now, in real estate, typically, okay, once you get past the initial phase of working with a buyer or working with a seller, all right, and they sign the agreement with you, typically negotiations take place in two different areas. Number one is the offer phase, when we actually submit an offer or when we receive an offer, depending on which side of the transaction that we're going on, right? We want to break that down. We want to take a look at that. And there's two things, okay? There's price and there's terms that go into those offers, right? The second thing is the option period, okay? So when the property goes under contract, okay, and there's contingencies and different things, inspections, appraisals, all of that go on, right? There's different areas along the way that are up for negotiation, okay? All right, so these are just some areas to consider. I think really the biggest part that you want to take away from this, at least at this point, is number one, ask questions and ask the right questions. All right, we're going to be talking about that. We want to ask open-ended questions. Number two, listening. All right, make sure that you're listening. Find out what's important to your client, find out what's important on the other side of the transaction, and that's really going to go a long way towards coming to some sort of resolution or mediation when it comes to negotiations. All right. So we're actually going to take a look at page 4 here in your guide. All right. So, all right. What sort of negotiation issues typically come up in a transaction? Okay. And these are things that we can kind of start to gather up here. All right. Typically, when you make an offer is either accepted, rejected, or maybe they counter. Okay. But with that, what sort of things come up in a usual real estate transaction?
What's being left in the home?
Yeah, absolutely. What's being left in the home, right? Okay, what sort of property, fixtures, things like that. And that's key. That's important as well. When you're actually talking to your buyers and they're walking through the house, okay, if there's a pool table that's in there, or if there's maybe a generator, okay, or maybe a snowblower, something like that, all right, maybe you can work that in and ask if they can leave that if that's not listed in there as well, all right. I helped a client last summer who bought a house, and in the kind of the reverse aspect of this, in the backyard behind the shed, there was this large metal rack. Now, these clients actually had 2 very young boys. What do boys like to do? Like to climb, like to play, like to get into trouble. And this rusted shelving that was there probably wasn't the right play set for them. Let's put it that way, okay? So what they did was they asked for that shelving to be removed. So we put it in the contract and made sure that it was excluded, not included, but excluded, taken away at that point. So but that's good. What else? What are some other negotiation issues that come up?
Time on when they have to have it be out or be in.
Okay, timing, right? Timing of when they have to be out, when they have to be in. Absolutely, absolutely. If you're dealing with folks who are renting, all right, unless they're on a month-to-month lease, okay, depending on when their lease is up, or if they have to sell their house to buy this house in a Hubbard situation, right? There's a lot of dominoes that have to fall in order for somebody to get a house and move into the next house, and for those people to move on to the next one, right? So dates in terms of moving in and out, absolutely, absolutely. What are some other things that come up?
I'm losing this. Sorry.
Did anyone say items that may need repair?
Okay, items that may need repair. And when does that usually come up? When do you find out about that?
After the inspection?
After the inspection. Exactly, exactly. So here's a couple of scenarios here. So number one, all right, you actually have a central air, air conditioning system that's not working. Okay. How do you handle that? Versus number two, where you've got a furnace that is about 60 years old, still runs, still heats the house. Okay, how would you approach each of those situations? Number one, you've got a central AC system that doesn't work. And number two, you've got a furnace that looks really old, but still runs. How would you handle that if you were representing the buyers?
Probably ask for warranties or repairs if it's going to be repaired before the selling of the house. Or I'd ask for, hey, what's the chance of picking up warranties on all of the appliances?
Okay, sure, absolutely. You can go with a home warranty. Absolutely. That's a great negotiation point right there. Perfect. What else? What are some other things there?
Get an
How do you handle
estimate from a contractor.
I'm sorry, what was that, Trevor?
Estimate from a contractor.
Okay, sure. Yep. And on which system or both?
Well, I would say the one that's not working, and then get details on, well, this old system's old, but it works great. Does that bother you? You know, is that a concern for you? If not, don't worry about it if it works great.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else? What are some other things we could do for both those situations? That's a great point right there too, right? What are some other things that we can negotiate in there?
Darren, you make a great point about the furnace, like the furnace, because the inspector will invariably say the life design is 25 years, right? And the furnace is in its 28th year, running like a top because they built it during the greatest of generations, right? So it still runs. And if I see an inspection tag for every 11 months and 29 days, I know it's been serviced consistently. I'm less worried about that with my buyer and more concerned about addressing what's not working, right? And then Murphy's Law, they buy the house and 3 weeks later the furnace fails, although that's the cost of ownership, right? But that conversation could come up too, and we should be ready for that.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of what I was trying to say is you want to be in a position where, especially now, since the sellers typically have the upper hand in most of the markets that we're in, okay, when you're going in and you're having these inspections, okay, if a furnace works and it runs and it's heating the house and it does have the inspection tags on there, it's being serviced each and every year, okay, that's a hard point to negotiate. Yeah, it's old, but it still runs because it was built, like Tim said, in the greatest of generations, right? And sometimes, there's really not much you can do with that. You have a central AC system, depending on how bad they want the house and how many offers are in there, you might forego that, or you might ask for it to be repaired, serviced, maybe a warranty, something like that on there, okay? So those are the kind of things that you have to take into play as you're doing this, all right? Typically, what I recommend is that when you go in for inspections, all right, you're looking for something major. Is there a hole in the roof that nobody noticed, right? Do things work the way that they're supposed to? If you've got switch plate covers that are a little loose and you're asking them to tighten it, those are probably minimal items you really want to leave off. You want to leave the inspection out there just for major items that are going to affect their ability to live in the home. Okay.
I think one of the things that I want to do is listen to the seller, because the 29-year-old or 30-year-old furnace, I have one, by the way, in my basement. And if somebody went down there and looked at that thing, they'd probably run up the stairs scared to death. But the point is, you need to talk to the seller, find out what their feelings are, point things out to them and say, hey, what about that? How's that going? How's that doing? Get a feeling for if you say, okay, I tell you what, I want a warranty. You want to know what the reaction is going to be before you ask for it. If their air conditioning is out and they're heading to Florida from New Hampshire, they probably don't care one way or the other. So you have to judge exactly where they're going to land if you bring up the issue.
Right.
I think that's the first thing you got to do. Then everything else will follow from that.
Well, Tim, Dave, you bring up a good point there. It's communication, right? Communication is the key thing, right? That's big. So having that discussion, excellent. That's a great way to do it. So how about appraisal issues? Has anybody heard in their office of any appraisal issues that have been coming up? Because I know when prices really started to ramp up in the early to mid part of the summer, all right, the appraisers couldn't validate valuations in a lot of these houses. Okay? So how do you handle appraisal issues? I'll give you an example. Okay. One of the first houses that I listed. Okay. We went in, did the CMA. We told them, said, hey, the house is probably right around 380,000. And they said, we want to list it for 400,000. Okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you, this is where it should be. Okay, great. Put the house on the market. They got an offer for 400,000. All right. We had an appraiser that came out and he happened to be having a bad day. Where do you think the house appraised?
350.
380. 380, right on where we were, but close. Okay. So now what do? If you're the buyer, you're not going in with $20,000 negative equity. If you're the seller, you thought it was worth 400 and you're thinking you're going to pocket 400, but yet it's 380. How do you handle that? Anybody want to take a stab on that one?
Seller offers to split the difference.
Okay. So basically the buyers are going in at only 10,000 negative equity and the sellers are losing out on 10,000. Okay. So that's exactly what the situation was. We managed to split it right down the middle for 390. Okay. But you could have buyers, and it may not be in this market, but buyers could certainly say, hey, we're not going in already in the hole in the equity side, right? Okay. And the sellers may be like, well, you agreed to 400,000. Then depending on your state and your forms and things like that, you know, you may have the ability to negotiate that. And if you can't come to an agreement, then the deal falls through, terminated, and you have to start over again. So those are different points that come up. So just be prepared for those sort of things.
How does the bank play into that? I mean, if it was assessed at 380 and the buyer wants 400, do you get into any of those situations where now the buyer has to come up with a 20K or the bank has to?
Well, the bank,
The assessment's different than the appraisal, though. Just to,
in my neck.
yeah. The assessment is basically done by the town, and just be careful of those things because depending on how detailed they get and if it's a drive-by versus, you know, there's a lot of things. But the appraisal from the lender's not going to budge on that typically. Okay, the lender basically says that, hey, you know, you asked us to give you 400,000 for this home. We're just not giving away cash just like it's growing on trees here. We want to take a look at that property and see if it's worth 400,000, because if it's not, then we're not going to give you that much. And sure enough, if the appraiser says it's only worth 380, okay, the lenders are like, okay, well, we're only giving you 380 then at that point. So now the buyers can come up with the additional cash to make up the difference. That's a possibility, okay? Or you have the sellers just adhere to the fact that it's not worth 400 and they have to drop their side of the transaction, okay, and give up some of that price that's coming in. Because honestly, if this appraised now at 380, all right, if this deal falls through and it terminates and they bring somebody else in who's got a loan, that lender is going to be using the same comps, you know, not the same appraiser, but the same comps, okay, same information that the other one did. So chances are it's going to end up right around that 380. So you have to make a decision at that point. And a lot of it comes into timing, which we talked about earlier, right? How quickly were they looking to get out? How quickly were the other people looking to come in? And that also depends on who has the leverage in that scenario.
This actually happened to me personally as a buyer, and we ended up backing out of the deal. The seller wouldn't come down, and we wouldn't make up the difference. So we ended up backing out, and then the seller ended up going with a cash buyer eventually down the line. But yeah, it's a real issue.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, not so much now as prices continue to go up. It's not as bad, or even if prices, you know, go down. But in the initial part, when they first go up, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. You have no way of justifying that rapid increase initially in the price of homes.
Hey, Darren?
Yes.
These examples you guys have been giving about, you know, the 50,000, the 100,000 over asking, these wars. Are those appraisals coming in even close to what they're over? And are these buyers still saying we'll still take it no matter if we're, you know, 50,000 in the negative equity already?
You know, there's all kinds of scenarios where that's going on. I know a lot of times buyers will go in at just a ridiculous amount over asking to make themselves stand out. And if the listing agent on the other side is smart, they're going to talk to their client saying like, look, there's no way that this is going to appraise unless it's a cash offer where that does not come into play.
Yeah.
There's no way that this is coming in. We need to look at things that are more realistic, because if the house is worth 350, we have it on the market for 350, and somebody comes in with 400,000 with their offer, and it's a loan. All right. I'm telling my sellers, like, listen, be prepared. If you take that offer, be prepared for them to suddenly come back and say like, oh, well, the appraisal came back at 350, so we're only giving you 350. So sometimes those games are played, unfortunately. There are other times if it's a cash offer, then it's not a big deal. And if you're talking to your buyers in those scenarios and they really want the house, you got to ask them, say like, look, is this your forever home? Or is this your stepping stone to get to another home at some point 3, 5, 7 years down the line? Because we don't know what the market's going to be 3, 5, 7 years down the road.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're looking to sell and now the market has been, you know, lower, it's been depressed. Okay. That is an issue. And you want to make sure that you have that discussion with them on that side as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. All right. So we talked about earlier, common points of negotiation, right? There's price and there's terms. Okay. So if you guys take a look at your guide here on page 5, all right, they have common points of negotiation. They talk about price. Now we all know negotiating price, right? You know, if you're on the buy side, you want to make sure that you're putting in your offer and you're able to justify that offer, number one, on your client's ability to afford the home, right? Also on comps that are in the area, making sure that you understand the relative value and they're not overpaying unless that's something they choose to do. But on the listing side as well, if you're coming up with a price, you want to make sure that you can justify that as well. You want to follow whatever the procedures are of the appraisers in the area. Okay, for us, with appraisers only go back 6 months, okay, and they only look at like-for-like homes. So if you are listing a colonial and you have a price for that, you want to make sure that you've actually looked at colonials that have closed. Okay, so you have a hard data point that have closed in the past 6 months. Why do we want to only focus on closed properties as opposed to active properties or properties under deposit right now?
Money changed hands, so it's closed.
Exactly. You've got a solid transaction where that closed, right? Money exchanged hands. So that is a firm data point. If a house is active, it hasn't sold yet. You know, I could list my house for $1 million. If it's only worth 300,000, okay, that's a bad data point if I'm using that in my CMAs, right? So we want to understand the price side. What about terms? Okay, if you take a look at on page 5 there in your book, right? What are some terms that are there? How about the first one, closing costs? How do we negotiate those into an offer?
Seller could pay points, or buyer could pay points.
Okay.
You could ask the seller to pay the buyer's closing costs.
Mm-hmm. Typically what will happen in these instances where you're asking the seller to quote unquote pay for it, it's not necessarily that the seller is actually taking money out of their pocket or they're doing anything like that. What they're doing is they're foregoing some of the money that's coming to them. So if I offer 400,000 with 10,000 back for closing costs, okay, that means that the seller is only getting 390. I'm actually taking the closing costs that I would normally pay out of pocket. I'm rolling them into my mortgage. So I'm financing that. Okay, so typically when you say that with closing costs, right? And you can ask that and you can put that in there. So if you're the listing agent, you want to be careful to look at that price that they're offering and make sure there isn't any credit or something that's coming back for closing costs, right? And that's one of the terms that you want to take a look at there.
Yeah. I also meant that, say they have money that they have access to, say they're pre-approval, and say they have 400,000 and the home is valued at say 370, come up to maybe 380, 85, use part of that and then use that as kind of a negotiation saying the seller to pay closing costs, but they're paying more money for the house because they're taking it from the loan.
It depends on the type of loan. If that's the mortgage, the bank is only going to give them, okay, enough up to whatever the valuation of that home is, and depending on the loan to value ratio and things like that. So just because they're approved for 400,000, but the home is worth, let's say 350, the bank's not going to give them 400,000 for that because there's no collateral in the back. If that's worth that much, they'll only give them the 350 at that point. But okay, definitely. Right?
And ultimately, you and your seller would not know of what the buyer was pre-approved for in the first place. Right. And God willing, and we're not seeing that these days. Kids are getting pre-approved for 425 and they're buying 675. It's like we're in bizarro world. So everything that Darren's teaching you guys today, we have to think about a future self and a future existence of real estate where this will make more sense. Because right now, somebody mentioned home warranties earlier, Darren. We're seeing those proliferate even more now because people are using those as insulation against waiving the inspection.
True.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going to fight with you over the inspections, although I want a big roll of duct tape wrapped around this house for future issues. But we're not going to pick that fight now. But are you willing to tell me that you think everything's okay? Right. And a home warranty, another thing for you guys to understand, they're all different too. They are not bumper to bumper, right? They're not going to cover all things. And the last time we ran into a headache with one, Darren, it was there was an issue with the town sewage between the street and the house. And guess what wasn't covered?
Right.
And we discovered before we made the purchase, although still that wasn't part of, that was just something that still had to be that has to be handled by the homeowner or the seller at that point. So just be aware of the fact that we are in sort of bizarro real estate world right now. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now with negotiations won't really stick.
Right.
They're not part of the conversations you guys are probably having these days.
Right. Can I ask a question? What do you think Tim and Darren about home warranties?
From my perspective, it all depends on the situation. It's a case by case basis. It depends on if you're the buy side or the listing side. If you're on the buy side and the house, isn't dilapidated or falling apart, but things are aged, okay, and it was a more balanced market, to Tim's point, okay, I may ask them, say, like, listen, we're not going to ask you to repair that you're to replace the appliances. However, can you throw in a 1-year warranty on the appliances, okay, if they look aged?
Do you find the home warranties are good?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the service. There's like American Home Shield, okay, they have like, I think 3 or 4 different plans that they have, and they're reasonable, they're affordable. And sometimes on the listing side, if I'm on the listing side and somebody asks for that, say like, listen, do you want to spend $2,500, $3,000 on, a couple of new appliances, or would you rather spend $400 or $500 on this warranty plan? Okay, and just do that. I mean, it's a no-brainer at that point. But
is that who you would recommend, American Home Shield?
That's just one I've seen. I've seen a couple of them that are out there, and that just was the first one that popped in my head. So,
okay.
Yeah, most of our national initiatives, you'll see 210 home warranty is tied to a lot of Keller things that we do. To Darren's point, there's a lot of different companies, and again, have your clients do their due diligence with, it's incumbent upon them to read the warranty and make sure it makes sense for what they're about to do. But Darren made a great point too. We have a lot of listings right now just to expedite the process. They're coming back on the market, obviously, with full access to the home inspection that might have caused the deal to go sideways before. They're doing that. They're running their own pre-inspection, and they're slapping a warranty on top of that, just to move the ball forward, right? Because like Darren just said, would you rather throw $400 at a home warranty to alleviate their concerns, or maybe be dealing with $2 or $3 grand in home inspection issues, which again, a lot of our clients are not willing to even ask for, out of fear of losing the opportunity, because there's 50 people in the driveway waving their checkbooks, right? So it's just different right now.
Yeah, and that's a great point right now. At some point, it's going to settle back down, but for right now, yeah, things are out of whack. So just understand, it's not always going to be like this, right? There is an end at some point. We just don't know if it's tomorrow, next month, or next year. So in that, okay. So some other terms that are in here too. Closing date, right? We talked about that before. When do people have to get out? When do people need to get in? All right. Now, what you're seeing is, in a lot of instances, is that the contract is contingent upon the sellers finding suitable housing, right? We see that a lot in contracts, because listen, you can put your house on the market today and have 5 offers by this evening, right? But that still doesn't mean you have some place to go. So we're seeing that a lot in their dates. Conveyances. Everybody understand what conveyances are? We talked a little bit about that. Fixtures, property, things like that. What are some things that might be part of conveyances that we would negotiate terms? Appliances, sure, absolutely, absolutely. They say the washer and dryer are not included because I want to take them with them, okay? But yet your clients don't have them when they're trying to make an offer. Maybe you could see if they wouldn't mind leaving them, right? What else? What are some other things? I know window treatments are huge, okay? Curtains, right? Blinds, things like that, right? And you don't think about that. We have an inclusion-exclusion rider in Connecticut that talks about that, and they list those in there, all right? And you want to make sure your clients are reading that, saying like, hey, if they're excluded and they walk in and the house is brighter than normal because all those things are gone, you want to make sure that they are aware of that and they were prepared for going in there, okay? How about earnest money, okay? Option fee. Let's take the first one. Everybody know what earnest money is? What's earnest money?
Basically a deposit to prove that you're serious. Just a check you write as a sort of a down payment.
Yeah, absolutely. In a way, it's like, okay, what are you putting down to show like your level of seriousness for making an offer, right? If you are a cash buyer, all right, and you're offering $300,000 for the home, how much cash are you going to put down in the beginning? Typically it's been 2%, but now, okay, if you really want to indicate that you want the house, you may go much higher than that, right? Okay. Now, option fee. I know we don't have an option fee in Connecticut. I think Texas may be the only one, so I don't know about the rest of the states here. So check with your coach or your team leader and find out about that. But typically, option fees are fees to pay to consider someone else's offer over another. You could call it a bribe in a way if you want to go that far, but that's what I've heard it described as. So if you have the option fee, make sure you have that conversation with leadership in your market center as well. All right. Then lastly, we have repairs. We just talked a little bit about that. We talked about offering warranties going in that direction, but just repairs in general. Okay. If things aren't working, see if you can get them repaired, or maybe they can offer a credit for it. All right. And make sure that it's things that are important. If things are old, but they still work, not much you can do about that. Let's say that the roof looks really old, but the inspector goes in there and he sees in the rafters and the beams, there's no sign of water damage. That may not be a negotiation point, right? It all depends on how the market is and how badly your buyers want that home. Okay. All right. So any questions on that?
Can you explain again what an option fee is?
That's something that, as far as I know, is just additional money that you include in order for somebody to consider your offer over the others that are out there. Okay. So that's how I understand it, but really don't take my word for it. Make sure that you check with your leadership group and your market center to see if it applies at all in your state. If it doesn't, then just don't waste the brain space and just, be done with it, and just consider just the earnest money or the deposit at that point.
I think Darren makes a great point. I don't think that's a thing in New England. I think it's more of a, and I'm, he said Texas. I don't think I've heard it in any of our 3 states. Darren's, of course, in Connecticut. So I love that you politely referred to it as possibly bribe money. That should tell you everything you need to know. I'm gonna throw in Nate Dickey's early vote and just say, don't say that.
Right.
It's not really a thing up here. Right now, because people would be fighting to be in second position, right? So if this deal falls apart, and now we've got there's a lot of lines on properties. If the Lindsays fall apart, would you accept the Gettix next? And some people are getting their deal that's in second position signed in readiness for, if my deal falls apart, Darren and his family they'd slide into first place automatically. And we're not doing that with options up here as of yet.
Yeah, we have something in Connecticut called escalation clause that some people employ where, they're willing to go an additional amount over the highest offer up to a certain amount, which can get a little tricky. And those are things, conversations you want to have. That's about as close as I can think of to an option fee. But again, chances are we don't have it in New England. I've never heard it other than in Texas. So I wouldn't worry about that. So you may see it in command on the commissions tab when you're putting it in the opportunities, but beyond that, you'll probably never hear or see that again. All right, so taking a look at the booklet that everybody has here. So if you've got page 6 of your guides, all right, there are negotiation tips that are in here, which I think are vital. All right, what I want to do, I want to go through each one of these. I want to have each of you read one of these and then discuss it here, because honestly, there is a lot of relevance to what you see here. It may seem like common sense, especially with everything that we've learned so far in Ignite, but you're going to come to realize that common sense doesn't necessarily apply to everybody when it's out there in this industry, okay? But as long as we maintain our side and we look out for the benefit of our client, right? We're the fiduciary for our client, then that's all we need to do, at least at this point, all right? So let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at page 6 here. So who can read number 1 here?
Above all else, be professional.
Right. Why does that matter?
If you're not, it's going to be a harder negotiation. And you always want to be above reproach anyway. You want to be a respected professional in your field and never be questioned. You have your integrity questioned anyway.
You got it. Listen, the reason why your clients hired you was so that you could be the adult in the room. All right. They're dealing with emotion. Either they're selling the largest asset that they've owned up to this point, or they're looking to purchase the largest asset that they're ever going to own at this point. And it's a very emotional time. And if you're dealing with them on one side, and then you're dealing with an agent on the other side who, basically acts like your, 7-year-old son when he hasn't had his sugar fix at this point and is just throwing a fit, okay? You're hitting it from both sides, but as long as you maintain your composure, your professionalism, okay, that's going to win out in the end. Don't ever stoop to the level of somebody else in that scenario, okay? Don't ever do that. Maintain your professionalism, because that's why they hired you, right? You have your license, you have the knowledge, you have the experience, and don't let anything else interrupt that, okay? How about number two? Take a look at number two. Who wants to read that?
I will.
Remember,
Okay.
remember your goal, a signed contract. This is what you're driving toward, and it's what both agents and their clients have in mind.
Right. What's important about that?
Then you have something to negotiate.
Mhm. First step, right? Signed contract. Okay. That means that now all the noise around us, okay, of all the other agents and everything else that's going on, okay, is gone. And now it's just party to party here. Okay. We have a signed agreement. So now it's just both sides negotiating at this point, right? A signed contract means that, okay, we are now in the settle period. Let's start talking about things that are going on. So let's schedule the inspection. Okay, let's get the lender going on the mortgage. Let's make sure the appraisal comes out. Okay, let's have these discussions, talk about what's important, what's going on. Because honestly, it's a first step towards a closing. And again, don't ever count a closing or don't ever count money on a deal until that deal has closed and everybody's walking away with the correct keys and the correct money and all that other stuff. All right. Because anything could happen, even on the day of closing. So never, ever, ever count on that money being there. All right. But yes, a signed contract is the initial step. You can take a breather, sigh of relief at that point and be like, okay, now the fun really begins at that point. All right. So let's take a look at number three. Read number three.
Darren, I just wanted to let everybody know I dropped the participant guide in the chat. It's
good.
probably not, you typically can't open those on your phone, guys. So if you're using an iPad or a tablet or your notebook, you should be able to open them on the computer or your tablet, but it won't open on your phone, but it's in the chat at 9:46.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I'll do number three.
Okay, go right ahead. Sure.
All right. Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction.
Mhm.
If you create anxiety in your clients or other parties, you're reducing their leverage in negotiations. So I think just being, like you said, the adult in the room, but also it's a manner that comes from you, that you have concern for all parties and that you can kind of like be the guide that is very calm and reassuring and not, stirring up anxiety for anyone.
Right. Exactly. No, don't give away too much to the other side. Okay. Just, basically you have to keep your client's interest in mind. And when you're talking to them, okay, make sure that you're coming in from an area of being reasonable about everything that's going on. You do need to give them the information. Make sure that they are aware of what's going on. Keep that line of communication open, all right? And let them know your thoughts on it, coming at it from a professional perspective, okay, as opposed to saying like, yeah, we're just going to go out and we're going to screw them over. It's not how it works.
No.
Okay? Say like, listen, this is the information that we found out. This is, I think, how we should proceed and go from there, all right? Just like when you're talking to the other agent, say like, listen, my clients have concerns about this, and this is how we want to move forward. Things like that. Okay. Just be careful about revealing too much or even not enough when it comes to that. All right. Already we're dealing with a very tense emotional situation, and we've got to basically manage, okay, not just your clients, but the other agent as well.
So important too, Darren. I know Matt Erdman and Nate Dickey, our regional leadership, feel this way. This is why it's important that throughout the entire transaction, I never went to my client and badmouth Darren and his client. I never at one point said, oh, Darren, God, this guy, bear with me, guys. He's a real pain. He's been in the business for years. Because at some point, I'm going to go back with my hat in my hand looking for goodwill, right? And I'm going to be telling them, no, Darren's working really hard for all of this to work together. We're like, well, no, 2 weeks ago, you said Darren was a jackass. Well, yeah, I said that, and I didn't mean it. Like, so no matter what our feelings are, right? And more often than not, 80-20 rule, 80% of the time we're working with the 20% that are doing 80% of the business. So no matter what your feelings are about the other agent on the other side, you guys are one big happy team right now. And you might be looking for goodwill from your clients on behalf of the other agent in the future. So always keep it on the up and up, right? Everyone's working hard toward a common goal. Super important.
Yeah. Not for nothing, but it's wasted energy when you're sitting there saying, everything that Chin just mentioned. Okay. I may be a jackass. That's fine. However, is that really going to help the situation? I mean, honestly, is that adding value? It's not. Okay, fine. Get past it. All right. Don't stoop to that level and take the emotion out of it and say like, listen, yeah, I know that this guy just said what he said, but let's look at it. How are we going to get you into this house, or how are we going to get this house sold? Let's move forward, right? Rise above it. I used to have a colleague of mine who would always say that, rise above it. Just rise above it. I know it's easier said than done, You know, and a lot of times, especially when you're getting into this business, all right, if somebody rubs you the wrong way, you just really want to go and read them the riot act. Don't do that. All right, don't do that, because then you're setting up yourself for a reputation that you just don't want at that point. Okay. How about number 4? This is a big one right here. This can be used in so many different negotiation points, especially when you're sitting down listing objections. You're trying to get the listing appointment, things like that. All right. Someone who wants to read number 4?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a huge one.
Continually refer to motivation. Remind your client why they want to buy or sell and help them reevaluate their request if they are becoming unreasonable.
Right, right. Take them back to their big why. You know, why do you want this house? Well, you know, all our kids can have their own bedroom. We got a big yard out back and the kids can play. You know, right now we're in this cramped apartment. Okay, you know, what can we do to get you into that dream home? Okay, let's consider what we're going to do. Is this really this point that you're hung up on? Okay, is this going to get you any closer to getting that home? It may not be important or as important as you think it is, right? We want to get you into that home. We want the kids out in the backyard. We want the kids to have their own bedroom, right? Okay, things like that. Refer to motivation. Okay, you need a bigger house. Okay, we actually had this. We can work through this, right? It's not as big of an issue as you think it is, and here's why. Right? Motivation is huge throughout the entire process here. Okay, and if you're selling too, right? Somebody's been in that house for 45 years. Okay, and they're now moving to another area, wherever it may be. There's a lot of emotional attachment to that. Okay, and so like, listen, you had great memories in this house. Okay, we want to get you to the next chapter where you need to go, whatever that may be. Okay, and you're looking forward to being in the warmer weather, right? You don't want to survive another winter through this and have to take out the snowblower and do that, do you? We want to get you to that warm, sunny place down in Arizona, wherever it may be. How about 5? 5 is good. 5 is really good. Who's got that one? Who's got 5?
Okay, don't reveal too much. Listen more than talk, and keep your client's motivation close to your chest.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big one right there too. Why is that one important?
Well, you're kind of giving away any of your eggs in your basket. You're basically, your information, your knowledge is your power. And if you just like blow it, what are you going to go back on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let the other party do all the talking if they need to. Okay. You're going to reduce your leverage, as we talked about in number 3, if you give away too much. They know more about your client than they should. That could be a problem for you, and you may not have a leg to stand on when it comes to negotiations. All right. So don't reveal too much in there. All right. And listen more than talk. That is huge in this. That's why I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Listen more than you talk. Take in as much information as you can, process it. Okay. If you need to ask clarifying questions, go ahead and do that. All right. But listening is huge. Listening is key. All right. And how about number 6? Who wants to read number 6?
Don't be attached to the outcome. You can't get everything you and your clients want all the time. Don't let it affect your mindset if a deal doesn't go through or if your client doesn't act on your recommendation. Find a different win for your client.
All right. Here's the thing that you want to understand. Okay. Even if you place an offer, if you're working with a buyer and you place an offer and that offer gets accepted, all right, you want to talk to your clients about being prepared to walk away from the deal. If something comes up that is a non-negotiable and you can't negotiate it, all right, be prepared to walk away. And that's where you come in. All right. Say, like, listen, I know how desperately you want the house, but I also know that this is an important point. All right. You've got a hole in the roof and they're not willing to repair it. Okay. First rainstorm is going to be very damaging to this house. Things like that. All right. But just tell them, say, listen, I'm going to be here to guide you, but in whatever instance it may be, we need to be prepared to walk away from this deal if necessary. If you start hanging your hat on the fact that you're going to be getting that closing check in a month and a half from now or 2 months from now, based on, you know, the fact that you got a signed contract, chances are you're going to be disappointed. Don't do that. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're always looking out for your client's best interests and be prepared to walk away and let them know. So like, listen, there could be a time where I come to you and say, like, listen, this is not working. This is not in your best interest. Okay. And I'm recommending that we terminate the contract at this point. Okay. So don't be attached to the outcome. Remember, you are the voice of reason. You're the adult in the room. You want to make sure that you are acting that way and that you're seeing everything for what it is. All right. Yes, you want to celebrate in your client's, win in getting that signed contract, but there's still a lot more hoops to jump through in order to get to that closing. Okay. And you're going to take them through that.
Darren, I always say to our agents that are new to the industry or the brokerage, when you put something under contract, I will give you a quiet golf clap.
Mhm.
We're excited for you, but there's tons of work to do after that. And I mean, on both sides, really, but definitely on the buyer side, you have to help your buyers fall in love with the house all over again because they go through the inspection process, which I know a lot of people right now are throwing out the window because of the climate that we're in. But more often than not, you have to help your buyers, remind them why they love the house so much the first time,
Exactly.
and bring them back to their motivation to sell it the second time.
That's a great point. That's a really good point. So just be prepared. Keep that in the back of your mind there too. Give yourself a quiet golf clap at first, and then just understand that there's more work to be done from that point. So excellent, excellent, good. Okay. All right. So next we're going to actually go into the 3 Ps approach to negotiation. Okay. So before we get into that though, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick 5-minute break? It's 9:57 right now. So let's go till about 10:02. All right. Have everybody come back and then we'll kick it up from there. How does that sound?
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, Muriel. Can I ask you a question?
Hi.
Hi. I don't have the things that you guys are reading from.
Okay.
Where can I find that?
Oh, you can. So you go into the chat and you'll see Ignite Elementals.
Okay. I have my tablet out, so I go into Facebook.
No, right now you can do it right from. I think you can do it right from the tablet, and you go into chat, and you'll see the chat, and it's just maybe like the last entries. He did it twice. Ignite Elementals, and you just click to download. Just try it.
I'm actually not seeing that either.
Well, if you guys had left and rejoined the chat, I'll post it again right now.
No, I've been on the whole time.
And you don't see it in the chat. Are you guys on your phones?
Yeah.
You're not going to see it on. Well, so Nicholas, you're not going to see it in the chat on your phone because you're on your phone. Annie, you don't see either of those.
I think it's because I'm not very computer savvy. I don't know how to get it.
Okay, so let me tell you this. I'll say this concerning that. If you want me to give you the pathway, I can tell you if you want to write down the notes. You're going to go to.
I will.
You're going to go to KW Connect, and this is where you guys can find all of the things. If you go to KW Connect, which you're going to log in with your KW user ID, kwconnect.com, they're going to ask you for your user ID, which is typically first initial, last name, and a number, and then the password. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yes.
Go to resources across the top of that and drop down to KWU. When you open up KWU, you're going to see there's 3 classes across the top. On the far right, there's Ignite 2.0 beta or lab. Click into the new Ignite 2.0 lab. And when you get into that page, you're going to see a list of opportunities across the top. One of them will say materials. When you get into materials, you're going to see instructor side and participant side, and then all of the PDFs, and actually the slide deck is in there as well. And this is Elemental 7, Negotiate the Deal.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know that. That's great. Appreciate it.
So yeah, Nicholas, if you're on your phone, these downloads aren't going to show up in the chat on your phone, unfortunately.
So I'm actually on the computer now. I'm on KW Connect.
Okay.
You said
Go to kwconnect.com. When you're in there, go to resources.
Resources,
Top
right?
menu, resources. When you drop down resources in the middle, about halfway down, KWU.
All right.
When you get into that page, it's the top right tile. There should be 3 tiles across. Top right is Ignite 2.0 Labs. And when you click into that, there'll be a menu bar within there that says materials will be one of your options. And inside materials, there's both instructor side and participant side. And you'll see all the PDFs for Elementals and Spark. We're going to Elemental 7, Negotiate the Deal. You should have access to the slide deck should you want to use that. And you should have access to your participant guide in there as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
If
I
you want to know why
appreciate
Darren sounds so smart all the time, there's the instructor guide too that gives us all the words to say. Although you'll notice he's not reading, he's teaching because he's awesome.
Thank
I
you,
do a
Tim.
good job at memorization, that's all.
Yeah, Tim and Darren, can I ask a quick question before we jump back into it real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just was wondering if you guys can guide me on something. I had something a little unusual happen to me over the weekend. I'll give you the abridged version here. I was at a gas station. I came out. I always wear my Keller Williams mask no matter where I go. And there was an older gentleman outside in the parking lot. And he asked me if I could give him a hand. So I approached him, and asked him what he needed. He actually lives around the corner from me. And he asked me just randomly if I could come and help him fix a outdoor light at his house, like a ground light. He was having problems. So I was thinking, I'm like, this guy is either genuine or I'm going to get murdered in the next 10 minutes. So, but anyway.
Well, you're here, so that's good news.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of neighborhood you live in, but you're right. You're here, so.
I followed him back to his house. He lives in a very, very nice, well-established neighborhood. I'm in Rhode Island, and in East Greenwich, and beautiful house. And I was helping him with the light, and we started to chat. Told me his wife was a broker, and that they were thinking about putting their house on the market. So I started to chat, and his wife is actually going to list the house and so forth and so on. But he asked me to consider his home in terms of a buyer. He was saying, we're looking to get like $690,000 for the home. If you can keep me in your thoughts in terms of a buyer, but it's something that I try to want to do privately. So I asked him, I said, well, are you going to list the home, as for sale by owner? He says, no. But we'd like to try to bring somebody in, privately without, having it broadcasted out there. And I was just kind of like dumbfounded on how to approach that.
Is his wife a real estate broker?
She's a broker, yeah.
Okay. Did he confirm? I mean, is she still active in the business? I mean, I just don't know why they would, is there any question as to whether or not she was going to list it?
Yeah, well, I asked him initially about the listing, and I told him, I said, I'd be interested in helping you with the listing if you want to sit down and have a conversation. And he told me, he said, no, my wife's a broker and she's going to list it, but I was maybe thinking about using you to bring in a buyer. And then he mentioned, try to keep it private, not to broadcast it, everywhere. And I'm just like, well, I don't kind of know, I have a magic wand and just to say, hey, I got a buyer for you.
Did you ask her what brokerage she was with?
No, I didn't. I'm so sorry, and I should have, but I was kind of like so dumbfounded with the conversation. It's like it didn't even cross my mind at that point.
Because Keller Williams, we have, coming soon. Like, we have that option where we share it with other agents within our office and whatever, and that works. I don't know what brokerage she's with, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have their contact information, and I'm still in process of helping making them a repair on their property. But it's like he just said he wanted to keep it private and not stir up a lot of buzz, just to keep it in my back pocket if I should happen to stumble across a buyer. And I'm just like, oh, how do I just stumble across a buyer for a $690,000 contemporary house?
Well, I mean, typically that's our job, right? You know, we work on finding, you know, buyers for our sellers and sellers for our buyers, you know, even if it's not like our property. So in the event that, you know, you can actually go out there and maybe do postings or Facebook ads saying like, hey, you know, I'm here, I have access to, let's say properties, you know, luxury properties, however you want to define that. I wouldn't pick this one specifically or any information on that. Just say like, if anybody's interested and you're looking for that, you know, you have access to some potential homes that are coming to market, things like that, I would think. Talk to anybody in your market center that might have buyers in that. I don't know if you actually have an internal sheet like Laura was talking about where you have a list of, you know, what agents buyers are looking for, what the sellers, you know, properties are potentially coming to market. But that might be something that you can kind of track down on that end.
Okay.
I think too, do you go by Iggy or Ignatius? I love that it's Ignatius, actually.
Oh, you know what? It's actually, I don't know why this is coming up, but Ignatius works in my office. I'm not Ignatius. My name is Matt. So let me change that.
All right. So we'll stick with Matty. So here's my thought, Matt. If I'm looking for a buyer for a 600, let's just say a $700,000 home.
Yeah.
The best way to find that is go get yourself a $700,000 listing right now. Because for every listing we get, we know national average is about 5 to 6 qualified unrepresented buyers. And then when you start, then when you create that buzz around your property, and I think I understand where they're coming from. Maybe they're in a neighborhood that doesn't celebrate signs and yards. Maybe they don't want their neighbors to know they're moving. There's a lot of reasons for their secrecy. I guess, as Darren was saying earlier, I'd lead with questions. Our job is to ask great questions, right? And I would say, interesting, Mr. Lindsay, what's important about not having everyone know about your house for sale? Right? Because we know national average is about 13% list increase in the last 12 months because so many people are looking. If we kept your house a secret, I'm not sure you'd garner that amount. So again, I'm wondering what's important about keeping this a secret.
Okay.
Right. And, you know, she's probably old school. She's going to do a pocket listing, but just ask a few more questions. And then above and beyond that, the best way to find those buyers, go get that inventory. If I'm looking for guys or girls that want to buy a red Porsche, get your hands on a red Porsche, park in the driveway. Guess who you're going to meet? Guys and girls that want to buy a red Porsche. Right. So I use really bad analogies at our office in Portsmouth. I refer to fat kids in bear claws because I'm a fat kid. So if I want to attract the fat kids, I'm going to make more bear claws. I'm not out looking for more fat kids. Everyone has enough fat kids. How many people have too many buyers right now and not enough listings? Raise your hand, right? Everyone has enough buyers. We are listing shy right now. We need to make sure that we have enough inventory to attract the people in the conversations. So go get your $700,000 listing. Then you'll find the overdue buyers that are looking for their house. And use them as a homework project, Maddie. I'd go take a look at their house and run that CMA for yourself on their property.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about doing.
So when, you know, when Barbara, I'm not going to list it.com decides to put it on the market and she's way over where she should be, right? Which I know seems like a fairy tale right now. At least you can, when you do have buyers for that property, you can educate them to where the house, you know, they wouldn't be crazy if they offered 7. She's asking 925 because it's this week, right?
Yeah, I thank you, Tim. And I was actually going to run a CMA on that home and just maybe talk to them about it and potentially get that listing there. Is that something that you would advise? Even though his wife's a broker, just say, hey, look, this is what I ran on your house and this is what I can do for you.
Well, to Darren's point, is she still active? You know, is she 98 years old? I don't know how old he was, but we don't just because he's 58 doesn't mean that she's 57. Maybe she doesn't want to play hard in the current market because she's hearing from her friends that are super active that it's a headache right now. So you could sweep in and do this with her.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
And maybe there's a golden handoff conversation on your hands too. If Barbara's about to step out of this industry, you know, you can have a conversation with her about that.
Sure.
You know,
okay.
Approach as a professional, like Darren was saying, right? Just keep asking great questions. You'll get to the bottom of it.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to jump into the 3 Ps as part of our negotiation process here. And you can see on the right-hand side is prepare, present, and position, right? Prepare. We want to make sure that we have everything that we need, that we understand what's going on. If we don't understand, like in this instance, ask the right questions. All right. Do the research, get the information, right? Present, go in, okay? Having prepared, having understand what's on the table, making sure that you're presenting the best offer possible, okay, from your side of the transaction, all right? And then position, right? We want to make sure that we're moving along, that we're making headway, that we are negotiating as adults and as professionals, and we're moving the process along so we can get to that closing, okay? Every step of the way, there's going to be things that come up, right? Just be prepared for that. Make sure you have all the information. You've presented it well. You're positioning your client for the best possible offer or the best possible placement of that offer, all right? So as part of the preparation, what are some things that we can do here, right? What's the first one? Know your goal. Why is that key in preparation? Why do you want to know your goal?
Helps you define the steps to get to your goal.
Of course, all right, right? It's like, listen, if we don't know what it is that we want to accomplish, all right, just like driving, what do? We plug an address into Waze and it tells us how to get there, right? If we don't know what we're going to do, we have no idea what that path is going to be like, and it's going to be a disaster going through there, all right? So go in, know your goal. What's it going to take to make this a win-win situation for everybody involved, all right? We know that lopsided market right now, so we've got to operate a little bit differently. So depending on which side of the transaction that you're in there, okay, what steps and what things can we do to make sure it's a win-win for everyone involved, to make sure that everybody's moving along in that, all right? This is also, too, where you find out, biggest thing we talked about earlier, motivation. What your motivation is, the buyer or the seller, what's your motivation? That's going to help to understanding what your goal is, right? And that leads us to the second part, knowing your client. Have that discussion with them. If you are working with buyers, have that discussion in the beginning with them. When you have them sign that agreement and they're working with you and you're going through your MLS system and you're finding out what are the non-negotiables, what are the things that they like, and you know what their budget is and where everything is, all right? Make sure that you understand those things that are important. Maybe it's not the black and white items that go into a house, okay? Maybe for them, it's about being in a neighborhood that's near some water because, one of them grew up near water and they really enjoy that, something along those lines, right? Know them inside and out and make sure you're presenting the right information to them for that, okay? All right, understand what's going on. If you have a listing, all right, when you're talking to those folks, ask them, say like, listen, tell me something about the house that I'm not going to know. Why did you buy it in the first place? What is it that you like about this house? What is it that something can enjoy that you discovered upon living here that maybe somebody's not going to see just from the photos? All right. Include that in your write-up. Get the story behind it. Understand that. Know your client. Right. Think ahead. That's a big thing. And prepare your clients. When you're thinking ahead and you're understanding, especially like inspection items, right? Say, listen, we're going to ask for this, this, and this, and this. Okay. However, they may come back and agree to all of it. They may come back and agree to none of it, or maybe they'll agree to a couple of them. But I think if they do that, these are probably the ones that we want to make most important because of X, Y, and Z. All right. You're thinking ahead and you're anticipating what the other side's going to do, and you're preparing your client as well. All right. This one is good too. Set clear expectations. All right. Who wants to talk about that? Why should you set clear expectations?
Just managing the person's emotions.
Mm-hmm. Being the adult in the room. And how do we set clear expectations? What does that come through? What sort of things do we do to set clear expectations?
Walk them through the variety of potential outcomes.
Yep. You're having that
help them understand.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Help them understand how you can assist them through each one of those outcomes. So whatever comes down the pipe, you can help them.
Exactly. Right.
Moreover, it anchors them so that.
Yep. Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
Well, it sets a point of reference for success and failure, and so as you progress through time, you can be like, well, I succeeded amongst the things that we decided at the beginning we would go. So it anchors, it gives a point of reference and anchors them.
Yep. Absolutely. Remember we talked about before too, about letting them know, say like, listen, there might be a chance that we have to walk away from this deal. Okay. If this, or this happens, I don't think that's of value to you. And I think that impairs the relative value of the home. So that would be my recommendation. So just be prepared. All right. Like Tim's point, you get them, they fall in love the first time. And then once you get that contract signed, now you got to get them to fall in love with it a second time. Right. And that's setting clear expectations and understanding the process. I mean, at best, okay, unless they're building a new house where they can custom design everything and they get everything that they want, at best, they're probably going to get maybe 70, 75% of what they want in a home. Okay, because remember that home was built for somebody else, not for them. It was built for somebody else. So they have to make some concessions when it comes to moving in there. All right. And that comes from setting their expectations.
Real important too, Darren, is, if you, MAPS coaching always uses the analogy of the beach ball. So if Darren and his family are sitting on one side of the beach, my family is sitting on another side of the beach, and there's a beach ball sitting stripes top to bottom in between us. Darren's family might be able to see the orange stripe. My family might be able to see the green stripe. If we had a drone flyover of the beach ball, we'd be able to see all the colors, right? So in saying, hey, to the Cannon family, hey, Carrie, I want to explain to you what you might be experiencing if you're on the seller side of the table right now, and ask you how you would feel about, our rebuttal to their last negotiation. So as the ball's getting batted back and forth, we're understanding this is how the sellers would feel, right? This is how the sellers may feel. To Darren's point, it's almost like that remember those adventure books we read when a kid, if you want Timmy to fall in the well, turn to page 17. Like, we have to give them all the probable outcomes, and if we turn to some of these pages, the deal may be over, to Darren's point too, and preparing them for that, but making sure that we are not negotiating or trying to make them feel guilty, but we're just making sure they understand, hey, if you guys were on the seller side and we slid this back over to you, how would you feel about this, right? And again, back to Gary's Y4C 2Ts, right? Win-win for everybody. But we want to make sure everybody has access to all the information. We're not just seeing our color stripe on the ball.
Definitely. There you go. See, it's having an understanding of both sides. And, that comes from the next point too, being informed, asking the other side, what is it that's important to that? What is it that they need? What is it that they're looking for? All of that, having that communication and seeing it from their perspective and getting your clients to see that. But being informed also means that you're doing your research, okay? You go to the town property card, you find out about that property, and don't just rely on what's on MLS, right? You match it with what's on there, all right? You take a look at some of the age of some of the items that are in it. You basically start taking a look and looking at everything, anything, so that you are preparing your clients, you have all the information, and that's going to help you when it comes time for negotiation, right? You understand everything that's going on, and you can talk basically confidently and knowledgeably with the other side. Okay, whichever side that you're on, you're going to be able to talk to them because you have all the information at your fingertips. Obviously obey the laws. That's big too. Okay, obeying the laws. If you are unsure about something, reach out to your coach, to the team leader, to your broker, talk to them. All right, make sure that you get something, squared up, and make sure you get the answer, okay, to the question as soon as you can. And don't be afraid to tell your clients, say like, hey, listen, that is a terrific question. Let me get back to you on that. All right. They're going to respect that. Don't try to make anything up and don't try to circumvent anything. All right. Obey the laws. All right. And lastly, knowing the documents inside and out. All right. If your market center has classes on the forms and the documents that are really important, make sure that you attend those and attend them multiple times until you actually understand that. Okay. Nothing really gets, let's just put it this way. Okay. You can attend those classes 10, 12 times and think you really understand it. But when the pressure hits and you get that first deal and you've got to submit that offer, you got to put that listing into your MLS system, all of a sudden your vision gets very narrow focused and you forget a lot of what goes on. But it's not going to be unfamiliar to you at that point. All right. So know those documents inside out. You want to be able to sit there with your buyer or with your seller and explain that agreement to them. All right. And then you want to be able to explain the purchase contract and any appropriate addendums. Okay. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, all right, you want to make sure that you understand that you can explain that to them. That's the best way to learn something, is to teach it to somebody else. Okay. So know those documents inside and out. They're going to respect you for that. If you can take about half hour to an hour and explain to them what everything means in there, okay, that goes a long way. Think about that. That's going to go a long way. Even if it's with a seller, say like, listen, this is what we're going to get for a purchase contract. And these are some of the items that are going to come in. All right. I want to make sure you're aware of it. So when the time comes and we can evaluate our offers, we can basically focus on the things that are most important at that time. All right. That goes a long way. All right. Any questions on this part at all?
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
I have a buyer that is very important, the neighborhood, the school neighborhood. So how I can get, just to go to gradeschool.org, or they have to find if it's a great school, like
school rankings, trying to find like neighborhoods of school, or schools.
Yes, because it's very important for the little girl. They want a real, very good school system.
Okay. Yeah, you may have something locally on there. I know that probably each state is different in terms of what they use. There's several websites that do it. They're using some state services that might offer the ability to rank them. Although, what state are you in, Cynthia?
Rhode Island.
Okay.
But they want to buy in Massachusetts. So.
Okay.
Tim Greer just posted niche.com is a great site. And I think a lot of our agents here in the Seacoast area use greatschools.net. And again, we want to point them in the direction where they can do their due diligence. We don't want to send them a list we printed and say, this is a good school. My niece went there. This place is terrible. Like, we don't want to start to steer that conversation. Everyone in the country knows what a 9.9 is and what a 1.3 is, right? And if they don't, draw an arrow in the right direction so they know what the scoring system is. If the Russian judge is in a bad mood, they might not want to go to that school.
Yeah, because they don't know where to, like a specific town, but they just want a good school for the little girl because she needs like a special attention.
Oh yeah, understood. Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that. I had no idea that Stratford was a town that I would ever care about, and we landed here because our youngest son, Cameron, is autistic and diabetic. And there's no electricity in Stratford, but it's a great school and they serve IEPs phenomenally. And we're blessed that we stayed here, right? But we had to do that research for ourselves. So I'm just making sure that we don't, just like Megan's Law, we don't want to get caught up in calling the police department looking for offenders or anything like that. We want to drive them to the resources where they can do their homework on their behalf. That's
that was more like my question, like they have to do it or me,
Well, we can certainly say that, we have clients who have kids here, there, and everywhere that enjoy these schools, but I would not want to drill down with my personal report.
Oh, okay.
Because if they end up in a sticky situation or they're not liking it, or because things change. I can tell you the K-8 in Stratford was a 9.9 when we moved in. And it's not that anymore. I'm not going to say anything about Stratford. It's not that anymore. It's not a 9.9 anymore, and I'm glad my kids are finished and on to the high school. Right.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Best thing you can do is direct them to the resource, let them do the research and come to their own conclusion. Right.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good resources. Cool. Thanks, Tim. All right. So for questions here. All right. When we're actually preparing and we are gathering information and we're talking, whether we're working with a buyer, we want to find out what's important to the seller, or maybe we're the seller and we're basically finding out how these offers are coming in and doing our research, right? We want to ask questions. That's the biggest thing to going through and understanding exactly what's going on, whether it be best for our clients or whatever the situation may be. But there's two types of questions, right? There's open-ended questions and there's closed-ended questions. What's the difference between the two of them?
A closed-ended question, you're going to get a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not being able to delve anymore because you've just said, what color shoes am I wearing? They're going to look and that's it.
Right.
But what do you think about this? What do you think about this color? Now it opens that conversation.
Right. Exactly. I typically avoid starting any of these open-ended questions with a why, like, why is that important to you? Or why did you do that? Or why? It seems accusatory, but there's other ways to ask it. Okay.
Right.
But what you want to do is you want to be able to take these situations. If you don't have a good understanding of it, okay, and we'll take, Ignatius, who likes to be known as Matt. Okay. We take his question that he had earlier. All right. If you take a look at that, if we're sitting in that room, we're able to basically coach him on the side on that. Maybe what we would do is we want to dig 3 to 5 layers deeper on that to get more information. So not only would we be asking and say, like, what's important about selling it on your own, or what's important about, maybe your wife listing it or keeping it quiet, things like that. Tell me more about that. What's important about that? Things like that. So that way you can dig down into the heart of the matter, and now you'll understand their reasoning or their motivation when it comes to it. All right. And those are the things that you want to key in on. Don't just gloss over certain things that clients are saying when you're meeting with them or other agents. Say, like, listen, tell me more about that. What's important about that? What is it that we can do to help make that achievable? Things like that. What are your non-negotiables? What are the important items that are there? Okay. What other things should I know? Right. What's important to your client? What is it that they're looking for? What are they trying to do? What's their timing? Things like that. All right. But digging deeper, going that 3 to 5 layers deep. Now, I just said don't use why as a question, but think of it this way. All right. If somebody said, you know, I want to move to Florida. Why? Well, I like the warmer weather. Okay. Well, why? Well, I have family down there. All right. Well, why? What's important about that? You know, just keep going further and further. And then you come to find out that, you know, they prefer to be in the warmer weather because maybe they have some sort of immune system disease that they won't allow them to be in the cold weather, and it's imperative that they get down there for health reasons. Plus, they've got family that can support them, and it's going to make their life easier going forward, right? I mean, I had a family member that was in that exact situation. Somebody says, "Yeah, I'm moving to Florida." Okay, why? And then you start digging deeper into that. You find that out, but you know, basically digging 3 to 5 layers deep is what's going to get you to the heart of the matter. Don't just, you know, scratch it at surface level. Make sure that you dive in deeper to that. All right. Okay. So what sort of other open-ended questions can we ask here?
Back to the point that, and I forget who it was, Darren, that made the comment about, you know, open-ended question, closed-ended question. More often than not, the closed-end question is something that can be answered with a yes or a no, right? And the open-ended question, and I appreciate that you said, what color are my shoes? We're getting back into perception, right? Because Darren might say that's navy blue, and you might be like, oh, I thought that was blue, right? Or I thought that was periwinkle, and I thought that was aqua. Like, what you know, so in that regard, making sure that we're really just staying away from the ones that can be the door shut in our face with a yes or a no, right? And I love that Darren brought that up. It's not meant to be accusational, but the why is less like, well, why would you want to do that? Like it almost doesn't. It's pretend you're speaking to your spouse, right? Like, what's important about not going to my favorite restaurant, Janina? Like, I'd ask that question, right? And at least I'm opening a conversation as opposed to, why aren't we going to Kowloon, right? She knows I want to go to Kowloon, right? She doesn't want to go. What's important about not going? Because we want them to start to talk about, you know, layers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but that comes with practice too. You know, get in the habit of just asking more questions, you know, just get out there. And even if you're having a conversation with somebody in your household or a friend or something like that, you know, just practice on them, digging deeper into those scenarios. And that'll teach you to actually just get in the habit of doing that and finding out more. A lot of times in the beginning, we're so concerned about what we're going to say next, and we don't listen to what it is, and we just kind of basically take it at face value and move on. But there's more to it than that could actually lead you in a completely different direction, right? There's things that could surprise you, and if you don't explore that and help them to understand that on their side as well, you might miss out on a potential opportunity there too. Right?
That's true.
And of course, we say that, and now here's some questions that come up here. And of course, the second one does start with why, but you know, there's really nothing wrong with this. You know, if it's something where you're at and that's, you know, how you start off, that's fine. But if you ask too many of them, it tends to get a little accusatory over time. So here's one question right here. What would happen if, okay, and that helps you to anticipate the next step. All right. What would happen if, you know, we did offer a warranty on the appliances as opposed to replacing them? You know, would your clients go for that? Right? What would happen if we asked for you to repair the air conditioning system? You know, what would your clients say about that? Right? Why is this important to you? Tell me more about that. What's important about that? You know? What's important about having a closing date be May 1st? Like, okay, that's when you're moving and that's when you're closing on your house. Okay, great. I understand it. So tell me more about that. Okay, things like this. This is going to help you to uncover a lot of different things, whether you're dealing with your clients, you're dealing with the other agent, but get in the habit of exploring more, digging deeper. You know, I mean, how else would you use these questions in any other situation here?
Let's see.
Well, how about what would happen if my buyer would present all cash, and what would happen if your seller had the option to extend the closing to 60 days as opposed to 30?
Okay, and some of those terms, some of those like basically negotiation points might come from, you know, finding more information about there. Maybe you find out it's like they'd rather close in 30 days if it's a cash offer. So you go back to your clients and say like, look, you know, is that acceptable to you? Because they actually have X, Y, and Z that's going on. But that comes from asking those questions and talking to the other agent and finding out what's working, right? Okay. but digging deeper, probing, getting further, go to 3 to 5 layers deep. You know, if you want to ask why 3 times or 4 times or 5 times, okay, in your mind, but phrase it differently when you talk to them, that's going to help you to dive in deeper into that subject matter. You get more information on there as well, too. Okay. Anybody have any questions up to this point at all? Everybody doing well? Good. Tim, do we have any questions in the chat at all beyond, I think the last one that you talked about?
I don't see anything
Quiet group.
new. Nope, nothing new.
Okay, all right. Well, I think at this point, I do have to run. I do have to hop off. So I can make you the host. Are you as a host in there, Tim? Or
Yeah, if you want to go over and do that, that'd be great.
okay.
And I'll bring up the slide deck.
And Tim, I'm gonna moderate for you.
Love that. Appreciate it.
All right, you are officially the host here too. So
God help us, Darren. Thank you.
well, I think it was just, you know that
Tell the
they're
world my
scraping
story, Darren. Tell the world my story.
I think they were scraping the bottom of the barrel when, Corinne's asking me yesterday to say, hey, would you mind helping out here? So,
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah.
boy. They're calling us in. Uh-oh. Awesome. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much,
you,
Darren,
everybody.
for your help today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, and anybody's needs anything, reach out to me, let me know. But you guys are in great, capable hands with Tim. Make sure you thank Tim and Aaron too at some point during this week for everything they put together. They really do a tremendous job taking this whole project, putting it together for a month, and making sure they have people teaching it, and that you guys are getting all the information that you need to be successful. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you, Darren.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Thank you.
All right. Can you guys see that? Say yes. Just lie to me and say yes.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Hang on. Let's go here. There. This is where we were, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Who's got page 9 that they can read through the scenario? Page 9 in your guide, if anybody wants to unmute
I'll do it.
and read the
Okay.
scenario with a 3P approach, right?
All right. The scenario is you are representing a single buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time home buyer, she's looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak, is listed as is, and it is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing.
So it says to circle or underline key areas in which you need more information or certainty before you could definitely confidently negotiate on your client's behalf. So Muriel, did you say at the top of that she is currently renting the home?
She is renting her present property, yes.
She's renting her present property. Okay.
Right.
And the property she's looking into has a roof leak.
Right.
It is being sold as is.
It is, as is.
And it's currently on the market for
170. No, she loves it. It's 175,000, and it is apparently correctly priced. And she's offering, because she has her own needs to reduce debt, she wants to write the offer for 155,000. And there's been a lot of activity on the property.
Sure.
So she is a first-time home buyer, and she's looking for guidance.
Awesome. So anybody who's been in the business for a little while, what are your initial concerns with everything we just heard and what you might be reading if you're on page 9? Thank you, Muriel.
Yeah.
Some initial concerns or questions you could ask.
We need to know more about the roof leak.
Yeah. Is it like a basketball hole?
Right.
Is it? Yeah, for sure. Well, and this goes back to what Darren was talking about. We've talked about all month long. If I'm representing the seller and I know that the roof has an issue, because I think Marielle said it's on for 175. I'm going to use my spirit fingers and say appropriately priced, because Lord knows what that means this week. She wants to do 155 because she's trying to manage debt and she doesn't want to she doesn't want to be house poor. More often than not, you guys at some point, if you're a veteran agent, this has already happened to you. If you just landed, welcome to Keller Williams, and it's going to happen to you soon. You're standing in the front yard with your buyer and you're looking at the roof and it needs to be mowed. Has anybody seen a roof like that? Right. The life design of the roof is 25 years and it's currently 24 and a half years old. And you're like, we either need to mow the roof or replace the roof. That's when I would have this conversation ahead of time with my seller. Yep, I absolutely appreciate that. The Lindsays didn't want to go down that road. We gathered some local quotes and we applied it to our pricing, right? So that's where my head goes immediately, because I know that we practiced that. So did they get a price for the fix of the roof, although they didn't want to pick the scab that was the roof, if that makes sense? It's a gross analogy for a Monday. I apologize. Actually, I don't. You'll never forget it, right? So I don't know if I want to peel that Band-Aid back and start fooling with the roof, because maybe I'm going to find more. Now you could argue, well, they're going to find more when they do the home inspection. True. But if I just say that there's a slight leak in the roof, we experienced that only during torrential downpours. We gathered some local quotes for the repair and we applied that to our pricing. That could be the rebuttal, right? At the same time, what's more important is historical. If you live in New England, raise your hand. You have heard, if you've been in business long enough, or you haven't, you're going to hear it you'll hear it at some point this summer. The Mother's Day, write this down. The Mother's Day floods of 2005. Guess what didn't flood in the Mother's Day flood of 2005?
The basement.
Heaven. That was the only thing that didn't. Even Jesus's feet got wet. Like everything flooded. If you're in a basement in New England, that smells funny. Has this flooded? Like every basement in New England, in most, because we have a very old, housing community in New England, right? You see houses in New England you don't see in California for obvious reasons, right? Lewis and Clark went east to west, correct? So that being said, most basements, there's a crack, there's a smell, I see some damp, all this kind of stuff. So we've got to explore and ask this kind of question. Now, she's a first-time home buyer. That jumps off the page to me. What does anybody hear something immediately about that? I hear roof leak and first-time home buyer.
Yeah, she needs help. She's going to need some guidance.
Yeah, and I would always say to, and not all first-time home buyers are younger, but I would say, don't you just want to get home from Liberty Mutual and put your feet up and watch The Voice or The Bachelorette? Like you want to get home and you want to live and love and laugh, right? Do I want to get home and be like, yeah, got to work on the roof tonight? Like you just bought your new house and you're going to be working on the roof, right? So do you want to inherit all these issues? So I would say the roof, to Darren's point, is probably something we would want to examine as part of our offer. Should we be making an offer, right? And did it specify in that, Muriel, if we were at the offer point, or are we just seeing the house for the first time and we're getting ready to put an offer together?
She wants to write an offer. So apparently she's seen the home.
Yep.
But she wants to write her offer for 155. So that conversation probably, well, what do you want to put in as an offer? And that's where she's at.
Right.
So now I haven't spoken to her about why maybe that would be a good idea or why it wouldn't work.
Yep. Well, so here's the thing. There's a few different ways to look at this too, right? And we know right now there's a lot of people that are deciding to not do a home inspection, a waive a home inspection. A lot of lenders are letting that happen because they want to retain the deal. It's not our best practice, right? We don't want people to miss out on opportunities. At the same time, we do know that it did say that it's being sold as is, correct?
Right.
Being sold as is. Why would I? And this happens all the time with first-time home buyers. If you've ever worked with an excited young couple, they're looking to buy their first house. What is everybody on planet Earth looking for, guys? A great deal. just looking for a great deal. You know what? There's a show that's on all weekend on HGTV. It's just called Great Deal, Great Deal, Great Deal, Great Deal, right? So this young couple wants a great deal. Great deals smell like REOs, foreclosures, that kind of stuff. More often than not has that language, right? Muriel usually says, sold as is. So my buyers can't make an offer and then start to counter with the government or start to counter with the person who's saying sold as is right now, which a lot of our conventional sellers are doing that right now. I can still invite my buyers to conduct a home inspection for their informational purposes only. Because whether it's going to become a monetary wrestling match with the seller, I still want to know if there's a dead body in the basement. I still want to know if there's a buried tank in the yard, right? There's a lot of things that we could discover that we know, well, we're going to have to take on this headache after we own the house, although wouldn't it be awesome to know about it now? Right. And I think
plus you want to know, was the house priced because there was a roof problem?
Yeah. So Deb makes a great point. Like we always used to get the quote and then factor that number, not necessarily the whole number.
Right.
I would be able to have that with integrity, be able to have that conversation. When Deb turns to me and says, hey, the roof looks like it needs to be mowed. Yes, the Lindsays understand that. We got some local quotes and we factored that into our pricing. If I got 3 local quotes ranging between 20,000 and 40,000, I'm not necessarily going to throw a 30,000 improvement on my pricing. I'm going to throw an improvement on my pricing. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Right. And then I can provide the local quotes, which would beg the question, well, the local quote was for 40,000. Where were you guys priced before this price? Great question, which you don't get to know the answer to because you're not my seller, right? You can be curious. I love curiosity. Is that making sense? Yeah. So we know that she wants to keep it at 155. Now, what product is she using? I have to go back to her because we have to ask all these questions. Carrie Cannon, did they say what product she was using? What do I mean by product? What financial product was she using?
No, it didn't say whether cash or mortgage.
Yeah, that's important. So if let's assume, I shouldn't assume, but I'm going to assume that she's using a financial product. What if she served our country and it's VA?
Right.
Would a leaky roof work with VA? No, that's a government-backed loans don't work. They don't fly with a lot of things.
Right.
If she's using the FHA, would that work? Leaky roof, would that work?
No,
right?
It wouldn't.
This sounds like, without more information, this sounds very much like what you would read if you were looking at an REO property, which a lot of people feel are a really great deal. These are where the emotions get detached, right? What do we know about our investors? If Carrie Cannon Productions just marching around with a clipboard and a pink hard hat, no judgment, I just think it would look great on you, right? Just picking out houses that her team is going to come in. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. I'm going to cash flow it or I'm going to sell it. There's no emotion attached, right?
Right.
But our prospective buyer right now sounds like this is her first buy. She's got $155 and 1 penny, $155,001 to spend. And it smells like we're going to be putting her in over her head. So we've got to keep asking more questions.
Yeah.
Because any of those government-backed opportunities would not fly with a leaky roof, right? Forego the inspections. Would her lender do that, right? We have to take ourselves out of this bubble that we're in right now, guys. And I apologize. It's a big bubble. We've been in bizarro real estate for a while. Raise your hand if you remember a year ago when we were not foregoing appraisals and inspections, correct? Right? We live in a different time right now, and we're adjusting our conversation today for that. I also want you guys to remember, Darren made the point, in about 20 minutes, because we're moving like this right now, we're going to go back to, traditional real estate. The pricing corrections are going to start to happen. Jay Papasan was on with James Shaw the other day, and he said in Texas, they're already seeing the buyer fatigue is kicking up a lot, and buyers are just walking away, right? And who controls value and demand right now in the marketplace?
The buyers.
The maniacs running around with their checkbooks. If they all take a day off, the market's going to change pretty quick. Interest rates could change tomorrow. All of this could go back to normal. And I know right now we're loving that our net is through the roof because we're all making more money. No. Ordinary time, trust me, you're not going to hate it. We have the luxury of being in a phenomenal industry. And there's no good or bad market. There's just an adjusting market that we have to be educated to serve, right? So What other questions did you guys hear and if you could read that, Muriel, could you read that again for us, please?
Which one?
The scenario that was on page 9. I apologize.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes. So you're representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time buyer, she is looking to you to guide her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak and is listed as is and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000, and there has been quite a lot of activity on the listing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm thinking is they're talking about a lot of activity, but does that even mean that it's good? How can we probe to find out? You know, they're getting a lot of lowball offers right now. I mean, how do we know we're going to be competitive? I think if there's a lot of activity and the house is priced right, then she doesn't have a chance here probably.
Well, if there's a lot of activity and a lot of people are using, traditional forms of financial products that are swinging and missing. That was one of the things I would do to save my own sanity. If somebody called me and they're like, yeah, I want to look at, does anybody know where Pittsburgh, New Hampshire is? Next stop, Canada. Okay. So, and I love my VAs. My dad's my dad was a Vietnam vet. So I'm always going to work with my VA people, but they're just like, so I think I found something that works. It's in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call Muriel first and be like, hey, it's Timmy. I'm in Keller Williams, Portsmouth. Before I take the 3-day trip with sandwiches packed to see if this house makes sense for my veteran, have you had any veterans take a swing on this house? Does it go VA? Will it go VA?
Yeah.
And she'll be like, Timmy, did you look at the pictures? There's no roof. Thank you, Muriel. Have a great day. Right. And I can sit at my desk, eat my sandwich and retain my sanity. Right.
Right.
So we can do a lot of that homework and they don't understand that. And it's not the client's fault. They're getting most of their education on HGTV, right? That's where we step in. So to Trevor's point too, some of the other things I heard, we haven't confirmed that she's qualified for anything. I don't think this paragraph demonstrates that she's actually talked to a lender. Can she get a loan if she has enormous student debt?
You're right.
And the house she loves, I could jump in my car. I'll show you a bunch of houses I love that unless I turned into a Nicaraguan drug dealer, I couldn't afford, right?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of houses my wife loves. We're not going to buy them. Right. So there's a lot of things that got by me on the first couple of swings that I didn't catch. She thinks she wants to spend one. So it's maybe she sat at her kitchen table and ran her debt to income ratio and figured out 155 would work with her. But if the lender hasn't been introduced to the conversation,
yeah,
and she still owes UMaine Orono $8 trillion to not be a brain surgeon, we should probably peel that bandage back and find out what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So is the activity because the house is popular because it's a great deal, but nobody, that's what Muriel could say to me. And this is about, going right to the source. Muriel, how many times have you shown it? Who is the right client for this house? Oh, Timmy, it's going to be a contractor that's flush with cash, with no emotion tied to the property, that's going to come in and fix this up and make it right for Stacy, our buyer. But when he or she does, when our contractor comes in and fixes this for the market, then it's going to be 210.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wrote leak in the roof. That was 3 years ago when I took the listing. The roof's gone now. It leaked in on itself, right?
Oh God.
Because you have to go back and look at that. A lot of our real estate agents aren't updating the notes. There's so many questions here, and we could go down a wormhole. And I like to talk, and I love wormholes, but we're not going to do that today.
Right.
So does that make sense about reading over it a few times?
Yes. Yes.
Like I think that first time we read through, like, oh, there's a couple of questions here. There's about 38 questions here, right? And then we have to decide, what could I ask the listing agent? What have I not yet determined with my buyer? I really don't think, based on what we just read again, thank you, Muriel, that she's even talked to her lender yet.
Yeah.
Maybe she is cash. And right now, guys, if you're working with the buyer, it's always an important question to ask first. I would always ask that question first.
How are you going to pay?
I wouldn't ask it like that.
Okay.
Those sneakers look pretty dirty. How are you going to pay? No, but like nobody's ever insulted if you assume they're cash.
Okay.
I haven't met them yet. Right. So if you call and you're like, hey, Timmy, This is Muriel. We'd love to see 28 Main Street. Awesome. Hey, and I'm going to start to run you through some questions, right? Did you guys just start your search? Are you currently working with an agent? I want to find out that immediatamente, right? Which is Spanish for yesterday, right? I'm joking. I don't know my Spanish, but anyway, quickly, I want to find out immediately, right? Juan's laughing at me. He's like, wow, he's just destroying my language. Anyway, that said, then I'm going to ask simple questions, you know? Hey, Muriel, will this be a cash transaction for you this summer?
Okay.
Typical response.
Right.
Typical response. They laugh a little bit, nervous laugh. And they just like, oh no, we have to talk to a lender. Now I know you're not cash. You have to talk to a lender and you haven't yet. Right?
Right.
Now, a lot of people right now, because they know the market is commanding it, are going to say, yeah, we're cash. We sold our kids and our house. I'm standing in the parking lot right now with a really bad umbrella, right? We need to buy something yesterday. You know, some people know cash is commanded right now to really move quickly. Let's clarify that myth too. How many people have had somebody say to them, Timmy, they should take our offer. We're cash. Write this down. Cash is king. 605. I don't know who that is. Cash is king when we utilize the expediency it creates. Cash is only king when we utilize the expediency it creates. Let's go back 12 months ago. And you've got one of your buyers is cash. And they're like, they're telling Juan, yeah, shouldn't they be taking our offer? We're cash. And Juan's like, well, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. You're also asking for a home inspection. You're asking for you're not using the appraisal because you're cash. I appreciate that. But sometimes people are, and there's a big point there. People that are good with their money, people that have discretionary income to buy the second home, guess how they got it? Because they're good with their money. So they may be performing an appraisal to make sure they're not nuts, right? Let's make sure this does appraise. So if I'm cash and I'm still asking for a home inspection with contingent upon, I'm still asking for an appraisal to make sure that I'm not out of my mind. You know, I'm behaving just like I'm behaving just like financing.
Right.
Because nobody, get a picture if you see this in the wild, nobody shows up at a closing table with a white cotton bag full of money with a top hat and a monocle like the guy from Monopoly. That's like not a thing. Even when you're cash, you're still showing up with a check or it's still getting wired. But we have some buyers who are like, well, I'm cash. That should matter. And right now, a lot of people are cash because that seems to be the fastest way to get to the finish line. So let's not get lost in that conversation that cash is king, right? And highest and best. It's highest and cleanest. What is the highest amount you're willing to spend on the home as you and your loved ones deem the value of that home in the current state, in the current market? And then highest and cleanest. Can we send a deal across the table that's not asking for all the things?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Darren made a great point. If the AC is not working, central air is not working, and it's almost sweat o'clock, right? What's it going to be in July besides awful out, right? So if it's about to be humid and sticky, I want the AC addressed. If the furnace is it has one more year left in its life design and it's spinning like a top and it's working great and there's service tags on it for the last 12 years, all dated November 25th, rock and roll. I don't have to tell them I want a new furnace. That's working, right?
Right. Right.
Anybody on this call feel like they're beyond their life design? I do. I could stop working tomorrow, right? And I don't mean like at my job, just like not wake up, right? We don't know. My wife's still taking a flyer on me, right? So we have to be really careful about what we're asking for when we do that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great scenario. Think about all the questions that weren't asked yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Tim, I got a quick question on information gathering.
Sure.
If you apply that dialogue that Muriel just read to a repossession, two words stick out to me in that dialogue is evidence of. So evidence of a roof leak. So that tells me that they could have an active roof leak that currently pours water in when it rains, or there's evidence of a prior roof leak with interior, markings on the ceiling.
Sure.
How do we verify if that evidence was something repaired? Maybe that roof leak is repaired. How do we find that out? And there's just remnants of it in the interior of the home.
Yeah, great. And it might not even be on the roof. We've seen it be as simple as gutters that just run back against the house.
Right.
And, so that honestly, home inspection. If they're that concerned, then they can't say, well, we're worried about the roof leak and we're going to waive the home inspection because I want to own the house that might suck. Like, well, slow down. Slow down. Why don't we think about what we just said? Like, we actually want to own this house. I appreciate that, you know, and this begs the question. I appreciate that you're super excited about this house, which is on for 175, which presents evidence of a roof leak. I appreciate that you have some student debt, and I appreciate that you want to go at it for 155. It stands to reason, Muriel, this may not be the home for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's incumbent upon us, as she's my active signed buyer. For me, she's given me a hunting license. I have to go find the house that will work for her now. We're caught in this endless loop of I'm going to deal with the properties that are currently on the marketplace. Right. Think of your respective towns. How many of you have a town with like, oh, there's like 30 or 4 new listings that came on today?
Yeah, 38 on the Cape today, new listings.
38 came on today?
Today, and 45 were pending. Yesterday, I think we had, what's the number? Yeah, no, I didn't do yesterday. I did Saturday. There were 18 new listings Saturday and 18 pending. So usually what comes on goes away.
They show up at the dance with a boyfriend. Yes, too late. Yeah, they're not actually, so they're not even active listings. They're coming on to tell the rest of the universe we're already taken, right?
Right.
So let me reframe the question. How many of you live in a town where active listings came on that were not pending or under contract? Give me a big number. Give me 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, I have 38 on the Cape. So
and they're all brand new and none of them are active or none of them are pending?
They're brand new. But again, the Cape has all these towns, you know, from.
No, understood.
Yeah. Yep, they're all brand new.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the one person on the call, right?
Yeah, but then again, I'm looking for a buyer, and we were doing searches, and I got off the Cape because I was born in New Bedford. So we're looking for homes, and there was nothing in Fairhaven, zero, nothing in Bridgewater. And I think those are the 2 towns that we were looking at that had zero. So yeah.
Well, so you're sort of making my point, Muriel, and everybody else on the call. If you're looking at a town, and I asked this of our agents up at 463, we're in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We do our all partners meeting, and a lot of you right now, and I want to change the way you say this, even in your own head, because like the toughest real estate to own is the 5.5 inches between our ears, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you tell yourself, yeah, I'm super busy, I'm working with a lot of buyers. How many of you are working with buyers and how many of you are waiting with buyers? Right?
I'm working.
Stop waiting with your buyers. How many of you have 2 or 3 active buyers right now? Active signed buyers. They're signed into business with you. And you're waiting.
I have 1.
1. Awesome. Muriel. Awesome. I didn't see any other hands. If you have signed active buyers that are working with you, waiting for you to make it happen, then it's incumbent upon us to go out and find that property, right? And that's how we get them to the front of the line. Because to Trevor's earlier point, like, well, there's a lot of activity. Are we about to get in the line with 48 other people in it? Now we're 49th?
Yeah.
Or are we creating the opportunity that I could fast pass them to the front of the line? I knock on Trevor's door and say, hey, my client Muriel wants to buy your house. Well, it's not for sale. I know, I'm here to put it on the market, Trevor. Are you guys interested in moving in the next 10, 20, or 30 minutes? I would ask it just like that. And then we go away from the why and ask the what questions, because he's going to say to me, yeah, well, we're probably going to wait another month or so. Interesting, Trevor. Do you realize today, and I do this every morning on our morning quick start, I talk about where we are 90 days from today. Do you guys know where we are 90 days from today?
Nope.
Today is Monday, March 22nd. It is Sunday, June 20th. Do you know what Sunday, June 20th is?
Nope.
First day of summer.
Ooh.
We're no longer in a spring market. Trevor, if you decide to put your house on the market today, and yes, Bizarro Real Estate, we're going to list it today. It's going to sell 2 weeks ago. I know. In a normal market, when we put a house if I sit at Trevor's house today and we have the signed listing, between the signed listing and the active listing, what do you guys run about 7-ish days to get it depersonalized, cleaned, staged, shot-ish? 7 to 10. You're not usually going on the market the moment you leave the person's house, right? So let's just say it's about 2 weeks before we go live. And then a lot of our markets used to experience about 30 days on market. I know it's a lot faster now. That puts us at 45. And the average buyer working with a lender right now is what? What are you guys seeing for the most part? Most lenders are taking how many days?
45.
45. Yeah.
Amen. So 45 plus 30 plus 15.
90.
I'll wait. It's the new math. Awesome. Yes, 90. Right? Yeah. So we're 90 days out. If I sit at Trevor's house today, he's probably going to be selling on the first day of summer. So what's important about waiting until June? And maybe his answer is, I've got short people in school and we don't want to move yet. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And if you want to be moving right around when they're finishing school, we need to get started now, right? I can't implore with you guys enough that we have to be having listing conversations. Nobody on this call, nobody in our company, nobody in our country should be looking for a buyer. None of you need another buyer.
Yeah.
Anybody need any more mismatched socks? Raise your hand, right?
Yeah.
You've got the right sock. We need to find the left sock. Go get the left sock for the love of God. And if you're senile like me, they're labeled. I've got an L and an R on them now. I know which big toe belongs where. That's how concerned my wife is, right? She doesn't do it with the marker. It's actually part of the sock process. Anyway, paying attention to verbal and nonverbal cues. Keeping quiet once you present the offer, right? Watching them. What are they going to say? Listen carefully to what's important to the other party. Darren made this comment, and I love it. When you guys are about to make your offer, and I know things are moving quickly, in the Rockwellian days where we could take a deep breath before we wrote our offer. If I'm coming back from David DeWorkin's listing with Juan, and I call David, I'm like, hey, Juan and his family really appreciate the second showing. We're putting together an offer. David, what does a great offer look like to your sellers? And then David's going to start talking, right? And David's a professional. He's not going to tell me all the things. He's not going to open the whole kimono. He's not going to let me into their sock drawer, but he's probably going to give me 3, 4, 5 bullet points. And what if the first 3 or 4 bullet points aren't money? Especially right now, because what is everybody definitely going to get right now in this market? Their money. Our sellers are netting 13% more year over year. The money's going to happen. That's highest. What's cleanest? I'm really glad you called, Tim. Everybody seems to be so stuck on coming in 60, 70, 80 over ask. My sellers do not want to take down the jungle gym. Would it be okay with Juan and his family if that were still there? It'll be fine. What do you drink, Juan? I'll bring a 6-pack and a wrench. I'm going to watch you. I don't want to ruin my nails, but I'll be there. I'll cheer you on from the deck, right? But we can take down the jungle gym after we own the jungle gym, right? Don't make that a sticking point. But I want to win. Do you? Do it from the parking lot, because that's where you'll be, right?
Yep.
I want the house. You want the home? Let's get the home. We can deal with the cosmetic and the structural later.
Right.
Right? These are things that we got to ask these questions. People are losing right now. Everybody's so focused on the money, and it's important. But if David's clients are older and they just want to go to South Carolina and eat Krispy Kreme and play golf and die, I want him to tell me that. I want to give him the room to tell me that. They don't need $1 trillion. They need to do well. They're going to net what they're going to net, because you're going to have the buyer agent right next to you that doesn't ask this question. We're just going to hit them with a ton of money. And if they're taking 60 over ask, I'm going to make that 78-year-old guy take the swing set down. Are you, Jerry? Really? How's that going to work? It's not going to work out well. You know? And why would you do that? It's just about being a good person right now. We could use a few more of those in the country right now, right? So we just got to ask questions and be a servant for our client and the other client. Win-win, right? Because the better we show up in the marketplace right now, especially where I know at the Keller Williams level and the way we behave and treat one another internally, what if you start to exhibit that outwardly to other brokerages and other agents, and they start to see what our culture really is like? Every time I deal with Muriel, every time I deal with Juan or David or Callie or Deborah or Kerry or Matt or Ignatius, whatever your name is right now, right? Every time I run into them, they're in a great mood. Even under all this stress of the market, I wonder what's going on over there. I wonder how they're learning to have these great conversations, right? What if you built a great business and your growth tree for your loved ones? Would that be okay? Say yes. Everybody should be saying yes. Who likes profit share money? Yes.
Yeah.
If you're not earning it yet, you will when it shows up. It's delicious. It probably hit over the weekend. If you earn some, check your bank account.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we slide on? I talk too much. I apologize. Checking with my wife. She's been dealing with, it's 26 years if I haven't shut up, and she still hasn't changed the lock. So
You have a podcast?
what happened?
No, do you have a podcast? I'm so curious.
Yeah, well, ironically, it's funny that you asked. So if you look here, when I spin this, yeah, guess what the name of it is?
What does it say?
Unscripted.
Unscripted?
Yeah. So Erin and I actually do a podcast. Usually, we try our best to do every Wednesday, but we both have short people and spouses. So I think we've done 10 episodes. I'll tell you right now, the one that we just posted is with Clint Pulver. If you don't know who he is, he just wrote a book called I Love It Here. And he's really well connected with the Keller Williams family. We had him on a week ago Wednesday. Yeah. So I'm a former radio junkie. So that's how I met Nathan. Nathan, before Nathan got to Keller Williams, was in sales over at HEB in Portsmouth. And I was on the air at ERZ. And then when he started this fiasco that we call Keller Williams Coastal Lakes and Mountains, he eventually invited me over. And now I talk for a living, which some of you might love or hate. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
great. It's great.
So what do we got? What do we got for questions? Scripts that we want to go over? We're probably not going to get through all these slides, but I do want to move through the rest of them to the best of our ability. Asking what and how question examples. The buyer wants to close in 60 days. The seller wants to close in 30 days. How do we make that work? Right? Here's your compromise that we have to do with our clients. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're questioning a 30-day closing. What's important about closing in 30 days? Or you're requesting a 30-day closing. What's important about closing in 30 days? The seller wants to move faster than the buyer can. That's the other question we didn't ask about our friend on the last page. She was renting. Is she tenant at will, or does she have a lease that has 6 more months? Right?
Right.
One more thing that we didn't touch on. If your client becomes defensive, you would explain, my goal is to let the buyer know at this point what's important to you. Right. And this is important too, that you explain, because you're going to be the list agent and have a buyer's agent call you and say, hey, what's important to the Lindsays? What does a great deal look like to the Lindsays? Which a year ago, tongue in cheek, a veteran agent would be like, cash yesterday, Timmy. And you have to be like, no, I appreciate that, Deb. At the same time, I'm asking again, what does a great offer look like to your sellers? Well, the tractor that was in the garage, I think you guys actually love that John Deere. They're not going to bring that to South Carolina. So if that's there after the closing, that wouldn't be an issue, would it? Nope. Right. That's two agents deciding privately and professionally that we're not going to put it on the HUD. It's not going to be on the Alta statement. It's just going to be there. Right. And there's some misinformation there. Like the fridge is going to be listed in the MLS. And sometimes the washer and the dryer is or isn't. All of those things are private property. They can be removed. Those are not permanent fixtures, right? And I always find it fascinating. I'm sure one of you on this call has probably had it, where they buy the washer and the dryer, and 3 days after closing, the dryer stops working. Well, she had a good run. Like, honestly, like there's nothing else you can say. It worked for 3 days. There were no promises attached to that.
But Tim, you can actually say to them, what's a good offer that you think your seller will take?
The two things I want you guys to get really savvy with is when you are setting up your first showing. And I know this is very different right now because first showings are long lines on Sunday afternoons in yards at open houses. That's really your first showing. When I'm calling to set up the first showing, or if I'm calling to get any clarity around the listing, hey, Trevor, it's Timmy at KWCLM. I've got the Lindsays. They want to see 123 Main Street on Saturday at 12. Can you do that? Again, we'll get back to a point in time where we actually do private individual showings with breathing room in between. And Trevor's like, yeah, I can do that. Hey, Trevor, I also noticed in the multiple listing service, or NERIN, or whatever you're using, MLS PIN down in Mass, you've got buyers, you've got compensation for buyer agency, and they're at 2.5. Are you able to support 3? And I would ask it then. Wow, that seems really early, Tim. It's better than really late. right? Because if you're a list agent, you're going to get the buyer's agent that calls you after the commission statement goes out. Hey, you had in MLS, you had 2.5. I assumed it was 5, but I see you're getting 3.5. And again, we don't discuss commissions while we're having cocktails at Applebee's, right? Say yes. Excellent.
Right.
Can I?
But when can we confirm that conversation? I would do it before you're setting up the showing. It's not too early, because at that point, the usual reaction is going to be, yeah, no, the best I can do is 2.5. I appreciate that. And I would follow up with an email that says, thank you for, hey, Trevor, thank you for confirming Saturday at 12 for 123 Main Street and for confirming 2.5%. Right? Because now I've got it right. Or if he said, no, I can do 3. Now, what did I ask? Are you able to support that? I didn't ask if he was splitting. That's tortious interference. We cannot ask it that way. By asking him if he can support 3, I have alluded to the fact that my agreement's for 3, and I'm asking him if he can support that. In integrity, I can't legally ask Trevor to support 3 if I don't have a signed 3. Right? And all of your offices are going to behave differently. We're having a 6-state conversation. I'm telling you how I talk to our kids up here and we operate in Mass, New Hampshire, and Maine. And everyone goes about this differently. This is your opportunity to confirm your 6 or your 3. And if you're on the buyer's end, I'm going to confirm my 3.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Somebody had a question. I'm sorry.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry, Tim. I just want to get in here really quickly about good practice to just get into talking about commissions right away, regardless of
Part of the negotiate all things, right?
yeah. Well, so here's my question. You're regarding your highest and cleanest. So wouldn't that start here?
What with
Well, you're kind of are you putting it all your buyer's position in jeopardy by trying to negotiate a higher commission rate?
No, in the grand scheme of things, I'm just asking. More often than not, I mean, honest conversation. I did this so I could sleep at night. I did this with the greatest of fears that if I get let into heaven, when Peter lets me in, there's going to be this huge dining room table with all the percentages I didn't ask for, with my wife tapping her foot with her hands on her hip. Like, oh, look at all these 0.5s. I guess you didn't really love us. Like, that's my biggest fear, right? I would rather, and I had an agent in Southern Maine, and every time I would ask this question, I did a ton of showings with her, probably did a dozen deals with her. Every time I would ask, she'd be like, Timmy, are you asking again? And I'm like, I'm still married, Pam. Still married, still have 2 kids, still have braces, college, maybe a bad golf game. I'm gonna need a lot of Pro V1s. You know, I'm gonna ask. We have the blessing in our industry to defend our salary every time we enter into contract with a new client. So it begs the question, why wouldn't you, right?
And it goes to the adage too that if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Oh yeah. Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? And so here's the thing. Now, if I'm doing that, and a lot of people don't do that, if I'm doing that, and we actually found out in the last few years, because I was teaching that to our agents so much, that a competing brokerage here in Portsmouth developed a script to combat it. It was pretty bad. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The fact that we were doing it so well on a consistent basis that they felt they had to handle that objection, right? And they can absolutely say, no, I can't support that. Or you'll hear, yeah, you know what? I see that you're just getting started. Let's see how this goes. I'd take that as an answer. And I would still say, so Callie, what can you confirm for me today? I'm going to hold up my 2.5, Tim. We'll see how this goes. And then I am going to show up like moss on the north side of a tree and grow on her, right? I'm going to be there holding a coffee. How do you take your coffee, Callie? Because I'm bringing them to all the things for the rest of this transaction. I'm going to make you love hating me all the way to 3, right?
That's really valuable advice. I appreciate that.
I just think it's important that we do that, because everybody's going to get to the point. They're going to get that commission statement. And then I'm calling Juan and I'm just like, hey, Juan, we had a conversation and you said you couldn't support 3, or you said you could support 3. And then I see the commission statement says 2.5. Did I say that? I do have the email. I'm happy to forward it to you, Juan. Oh no, I'll make the adjustment. Tim, right? I do remember that now, because they do forget. I mean, but I'm going to ask only because I want to have it supported, because I thought if you guys are getting real good at having your buyer's agency agreement signed and you're explaining your value of 3 to serve your buyer, that gives you the right. And that's how I would explain it to my buyers. Currently, Mr. Lindsay, most of the listings out there are going to range anywhere between 5 and 6 for the marketing compensation for the list agent. They usually in kind are going to turn and co-broke with me. if we can agree to a 3, that gives me the right to ask for my 3 to be supported, right? Now moving forward, most of them won't be able to support the 3. And my broker here locally in most of our offices within Keller Williams, our brokers allow us to run our business as we choose. So the language in most of our buyers agency agreements may say that they are due 3% to the market center, although that's an agreement between us and our buyers. What I would do is say, listen, Mr. Lindsay, I'm not going to keep you out of your next home. I'm not going to let my missing 0.5 muddy the waters here. What I'm going to ask is, after I give you superlative service, that you allow me to do that for your loved ones moving forward for the rest of forever. Not some of your friends, all of your friends. Would you be willing to do that with me, Mr. Lindsay? Should I hold up my end of the bargain and give you superlative service? Awesome. Sign here, right? And notice I'm not reading anything that's flying out of my face, because I've been saying this for 11 years. Because Nathan Dickey beat it into me. Not with a stick. It was with a pool noodle, but it was still abuse, right? We just got to get comfortable having these conversations. This is how all of our friends in corporate America sit down and fight for their greatness once. Maybe your friend Ted said at Liberty Mutual 5 years ago and ultimately accepted X, Y, or Z. Most of them in the last 12 months were called at home because they've been furloughed working from their desk with their cat. Hey, Ted, yeah, we're freezing wages, but you should be really excited you still have a job. That's their conversation, where everyone on this call gets to fight for their greatness at the next kitchen table or the next conference table with their buyer. And we need to behave that way. So if the analogy of the missing 0.5% on a huge table up in heaven with your spouse tapping their feet with their hands on their hip scares you too, good. I've done my job today, right? We need to fight for our greatness. And you guys are backed by the most powerful brokerage on the planet. That's not hyperbole. That's truth. Nobody else is holding a class like this.
Nope.
So let's behave that way, right? What do we got? Any other questions as we move forward? Yes, no, maybe?
Good question.
We got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So when you have a buyer's agency agreement signed and you sign it with a 3%, so when you make an offer, you put that in the offer, that 3% comes out from the sales price, right?
No, well, so personally, and again, everybody can lean back into their local leadership for the language they want you to use and the way your market behaves. Because we're in 3 different environments up here at 463 in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Right over the bridge is Southern Maine with Kittery. And that was my friend who used to always ask me why I kept asking for my missing 0.5%, because that's just how they play in Southern Maine. Deb Deldon can nod her head and say, yes, she understands. And then when you go to Massachusetts, invariably, at least on the North Shore for us, more often than not, listings are getting taken at 4s, right? Yeah, people are taking stuff at 4. So there's 3 different. If you're licensed as a triple threat here in Portsmouth, you have to be ready to have those 3 different conversations. To answer your question, you're getting that 3 signed on, so you can ask for that to be supported. And if they don't support it, I don't think in this environment I would be asking for that moving forward. I think that's going to muddy the waters for your buyer in this current environment. Although I could say to them, and I would say to them when I was in practice, because don't forget, guys, I stopped practicing real estate in 14 when I took the coaching role. I would say, Muriel, hey, should we approach a house that is not able to support my 3? We could make that part of the negotiations as we see fit, because I'm always going to get her permission to do that. It was very infrequently that I wasn't able to cure that when I had that first conversation with the list agent, or it didn't get taken care of and I didn't speak of it again and I got referrals moving on. I've been out of boots on the ground real estate for 7 years, and I still have clients that I helped in the summer of 2014 who are coming back to me, or they're sending people to me, because I behave like an agent, because I'm still licensed in New Hampshire for referral purposes. I have 700 teammates that can take care of you across 3 states. Not to mention a network of 6,000 agents throughout New England. Not to mention an additional network, 6,180, 174,000 other agents in North America. So it stands to reason, if you have a question in and around real estate anywhere in North America, I can probably help you, right? And if your experience with me between 2010 and 2014, when I was selling with Keller Williams, was a good one, and then they asked me to start talking to people about how to do it, I would argue we probably have a pretty good idea what we're doing, right?
Mhm.
That's your value proposition. So I would not, I agree with you. I would not muddy the waters with my missing percentage. And everybody's going to be different about it, right? Because you'll have buyers and be like, you worked really hard. I can't believe you didn't get what we agreed to. And just explain to them, getting you into your house is the end game.
That's right.
I'm not gonna step over dollars to pick up pennies. If this person is going to then send me their grandfather and then their niece, if they're going to be a repeat offender wealth determiner for me and my family for the next 10, 20 years, how long do you plan on being in real estate? Think about that number. How many people does this person know that you could help in the future?
That's right.
I'm not going to burn that bridge over 0.5%. I'm just not. I mean, and that's my personal decision, right? But I plead with you to start having that. Can you support my 3 or whatever your number is? Can you support that on your first interaction with that agent? And you're going to get a lot of, well, I don't know. I'm probably going to have 48 other people call me today, Tim. It's probably not something we need to worry about. Well, I appreciate that. I'm not worried about the other 48 people, Muriel. I'm worried about me and my clients. And I do a great job. So when we do bring you an offer, are you able to support my 3? You know, sometimes we have to enter into these conversations with a sweatshirt that says F and U, and I don't mean Fairfield University, right? We have to just behave like the rock stars we are. Carry a little bravado into the conversation. Not with your hat in your hand, like, well, I wrote down 3. I'm sorry. Can you support that? I don't mean to upset you. Like, no, I mean, just be matter of fact about it. You guys are the best agents on the planet. We have to behave that way in every interaction, right? We are the market leaders. Everybody's looking to us for leadership. Sorry. All right, we're going to skip over some of the scripting stuff because I want to get to questions with you guys. Counter tactics. Match the tactic to the correct counter tactic statement. The tactic, hot potato. Oh, this is phenomenal. Ask for a concession in return before agreeing to any further concessions. Good guy, bad guy. And these aren't matched up yet. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? Nibbling. Call them on their game. If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says to the good guy, since they are a tag team anyway. This likely will diffuse the tactic because you know you have 2 bad guys. No judgment, but all the judgment, right? So letter C, call them on their game. If it continues, then attribute what the bad guy says to the good guy. Since they are a tag team anyway, this will likely diffuse the tactic because you know you have 2 bad guys. It's that used car tactic, right? When you're at the dealership and the kid that you know, you could absolutely walk through the transaction with. Sorry, I'm moving these slides all over the place. I apologize, guys. It's clunky trying to move these slides and then have all the things. Where do we go? I'm so sorry. Stand by. There it is. It's back. You're sitting at the dealership and the nice kid Craig has to get up every 10 minutes. Let me go check with my manager. You know what's out back? There's no manager out back. Yeah. He's climbing under a desk in the fetal position, sucking his thumb and crying for 3 minutes. And then he wipes his eyes, comes back out and is like, so my manager said, you know, that's an old tactic. So that's the good guy, bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Because if the good guy is letting the bad guy run the game,
Right.
you've just got 2 bad guys, right? And not to say anybody's a bad guy, but when they're trying to play good cop, bad cop, it's never a great outcome. So call them on it, right? Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? What is that?
That's a hot potato.
Hot potato. Test the validity. Find out if the problem is real. Has the party with the problem exhausted every possible solution? What does everybody say?
Hot potato.
Okay. I feel like I only have one person saying hot potato. I want to make sure we're agreeing as a group. And then asking for a concession in return before agreeing to further concessions.
That's nibbling.
That's nibbling. And this can be brain damage. Let's just all be on the same page about this. This can be brain damage because if the ball, you know, the hot potato or the nibbling, if it goes back and forth 38 times, and right now, again, in bizarre real estate world right now, we don't really have time for that, do we? right? Like you're sort of getting Johnny Damon. Anybody know who Johnny Damon is? He's the Red Sox player who was negotiating with the Red Sox, and the Yankees gave him a count. So he got something from the Yankees. The Red Sox countered. The Yankees countered, and he was about to leave the room with his agent to call the Red Sox back. They're like, "No, if you leave the room, it's over." And he had to accept. And the Yankees were throwing a ton of money at him, and he had to accept. And then he called the Red Sox after the fact, said, "I couldn't even leave the room again. They were going to pull the deal." Right. And we don't want these, we don't want to ever throw like an ultimatum on the table. But sometimes when it goes back and forth too many times, we can just clear it up. As Nathan Dickey always taught me, if I definitely want something, I'm going to tether it to the thing that Callie, is it Callie? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tether it to the thing that Callie and her clients want. Like, so we both get to turn our key, right? If Callie's clients are really looking for this, I'm going to make sure, yes. I mean, it's classic Washington politics. If you have nothing to do this weekend, read the COVID bill they just pushed through for $1.9 trillion. It's not all COVID. What do they call it? Pork? There's some pork in there. Like, yeah. Why does Pelosi's grandkids get scooters? Don't ask any questions. Just sign the bill, right? You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. And I'm just picking on Nancy because she's fun to pick on. But like all politicians do it. We need these three things. We're going to attach these 38 things to the three things because in order to get what you want, you have to sign off on what I want, which is a catastrophe, although it's a great negotiating skill when you're going back and forth to make sure it is a win-win, right? And I keep talking about you guys fighting for your greatness. This is in the defense of your clients. Please don't lose that in translation today. It is a win-win for our clients. Our job is to stand in between the emotion of our clients, extract the emotion, and insert professionalism, right? And this is why we're arming you with these words and this know-how and all this theory that all these veteran agents are bringing to the conversation today, that Darren brought to the conversation today. Once a day at Keller Williams, you should catch yourself saying, I would have never thought of that. If you're not, we're not doing our job, right? Mm-hmm. I would have never thought of that's the power of 180,000, right? Yeah. I mean, there's like 62 in the room, but you get the point, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're powerful as a group. Gary had that t-shirt on during family reunion. If we all move as one, we're unstoppable, right?
That's right.
What else we got? Questions, comments, concerns? Let's handle just some, let's just open the floor up. Let's open the floor up with our remaining 30 minutes.
So I got a quick question about the lending process.
Sure.
Okay, I have a buyer that I'm working with, and I started the lending process with them. So they're working with a recommended lender. They're not at a point right now where they can actually receive a loan. They're on a plan to build some credit, substantiate some things on their end.
Okay.
I've had a conversation with my lender. He's informed me that he's putting them on a plan to build that credit. So should that lender be communicating with me and giving me, the step-by-step to that plan? And how often should I be, going back to my lender just to kind of see where my potential clients are in the process?
So what do you think the window is on them? Oh, sorry about that. What do you think the window is for them to rebuild their credit? What's the time frame?
I think it's going to be anywhere between 6 and maybe 8 months.
Okay. And have you had the conversation with the client that because this is where people get funky and sometimes we overstep our bounds. Like obviously, if Ted comes to me and he wants to buy a house and then he talks to Brad, our in-house lender here in Portsmouth, and Brad's like, Ted's got some work to do, and he sends Ted over to Larry, the credit guy. That's where you guys are at right now. Yes, Matt?
Yes, exactly.
So at that point, I would want to confirm with my client that, hey, you keep doing what you should be doing. Stay in touch with Larry. Keep chipping away at that. And with your permission, I'm going to check in with Larry too to make sure that we're all on the same track.
Okay.
Right? And honestly, there's no reason. And this is why some of our loved ones will never do real estate with us. If you're a veteran agent on the call, some of your loved ones will never do real estate with you because they think that we get right into their sock drawer and we get to find out everything. We don't. We don't need to. Some of our clients are okay with us understanding where they sit financially. There's no need for us to do that. All we need to know is, do they have a permission slip from their mom to go shopping? Like that's what we have the right to know, right? Because everything else is a private conversation between them and their bank, them and their lender, right? So I would just gain permission from your client. Is there anything I can do, Mr. Lindsay, on my end to make sure that that we're working together towards this goal? Right.
Yeah, so they've given me complete permission to, check back and forth, and, they want me part of the process.
Sure.
They feel very comfortable and confident in me with, just kind of checking them. And I want to do it too, because I'm trying to offer them my support in any way that I can.
Yep.
I just don't know how often that I should go back to my, to my lender to say, okay, where are we now with these guys?
So I'm going to go. So knowing that your clients are okay with it, I'd go to Brad and be like, hey, Brad, I talked to the Lindsays, and they said that they're working with the credit guy on your team to fix their credit. In situations like this, what can I do to help, and how often should I be checking with you to be on the same page with everybody else?
Sure.
Right? Because if it's 6 to 8 to 9 months, then yeah, I want you to keep an eye on that, because what if they start to chip away harder and they fix their credit sooner?
Exactly.
We want to be ready to go at the same time. And what I would make sure that you do, if you've got a buyer, you keep that listing cart going, right? Because if they're sitting there watching houses come and go that they could have pulled the trigger on, but they're not able to, because they're fixing their credit, they're not fixing their credit, or they have the power to fix their credit quicker, but they're dragging their feet because they're waiting for things to get better. Like right now, the only thing holding them back is their credit. And if they could take action to fix their credit faster, I want houses going across their computer screen at a feverish clip to remind them that they're missing out.
Yeah.
Not to be disingenuous, just to remind them, like, the world's moving on without you.
Yeah.
And it's well within your power to stop getting Taco Bell every Thursday, stop going to the movies. We've all got friends that got no money. And then like 2 days later, they're putting up on Instagram, they got a fresh tattoo. It's like, that should say stupid. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with the money that you didn't have? You went and got a tattoo this weekend. That's just not, because then you have to decide at some point, does this person even want my help? Or was it a fun conversation?
And I had recommended that through the course of them going through the lending process, that I was going to give them some market information and just to kind of give them something to keep their eye on the prize, so to speak. So.
Well, and what you might hear from them at this point, we hear this from our buyers all the time. Yeah, we appreciate that, Tim. We don't want to bother you. Hey, listen, Trevor, you know what? You guys finish this conversation with me. We flesh out what your house looks like that you're looking for. Feel, felt, found. You guys know I love feel, felt, found. I understand that you feel like it's going to be a waste of your time. And let me remind you, it's not a waste of my time. My team and I do this all the time. We've had a lot of clients that I understand how you feel. We've had a lot of clients that have felt the same way. And what we found is when our clients keep an eye on the current market, they step into their transaction with more education, and it's a more enjoyable experience.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate that.
So if I can, like, if I've got somebody who needs to fix their credit to buy a Porsche, which doesn't really make sense, but anyway, right? I'm going to send them pictures of Porsches every day, right? Because there's somebody less qualified than your friend Ted driving a Porsche today, because they just hustled a little bit faster, right? They're missing out on the American dream. And I want to put them up against the ticking clock. I appreciate you need to fix your credit. The feds could adjust the rate at any minute. And a percentage point will adjust their mortgage by tens of thousands of dollars. So somebody who's able to step into the conversation today might be out of the conversation tomorrow, and they'll be looking for a long-term rental. And based on our conversation, Trevor, I know that's not what you guys want. So let's get to work. How can I help? I'll tell you how I help. If I see you with a tattoo next week on Instagram, I'm going to drive to your face and kick you in the neck. I'll drive to your house and kick you in the neck. Trevor seems really tall. I'm only 5'9". I'll get a soapbox. I'll figure it out, right? I'll swing a fake leg at his neck. I don't know. I'll figure it out, right? How can I help you? Right? Well, I want to go golfing every weekend. We can't. Get PGA 2K21. I'll play with you on Sundays, right? Like, there's other things that you need to be doing with your money right now. I want to remind them of all the things that could change, that could derail their dream. Right now, they're in total control. It's a credit conversation. And I also want to remind them of what's going on. The market's still moving without you. Right? We always talk about grab your phone, right? How many times have we had this conversation, guys? Anybody grab your phone? How many contacts do you have in your phone? Juan, I'll pick on you today. How many contacts in your phone, Juan?
Like 300.
And 400 of them are ex-girlfriends, right, buddy? Good for you. So there's 300 contacts in his phone, right? Times 0.061. 18. There are 18 of the people in your phone, assuming there's no redundancies one. There are 18 possible real estate transactions that are going to take place in the next 12 months with the people in your phone. Veteran agents right now would push back and be like, Timmy, I didn't experience that last year based on my number. I have 300 as well. I didn't have 18 transactions last year. I didn't say that you were invited yet. You have to invite your face to the transaction. Because of the 300 people in your phone, Juan, how many times have you told them you're in real estate? I'll wait. Carry the one, divide by 3, add mediocrity. You haven't, right? I love you, but you haven't.
No,
We have to
you're
tell
right.
everyone in our phone, everyone in our life that we're in real estate 7 times before they forget. That's a lot of math. Welcome to Monday, right? They would have worked with you. If anybody on this page opens a restaurant tomorrow, would your friends come there to eat? Say yes. Yes. Because people like food and they want to support their loved ones. So you are opening a small business right now, or you're in a small business right now, veteran agents, growing agents, whomever you are. Do your friends realize the power you have to help them? All of my friends are younger. They're not buying yet, right? We hear this from college students all the time. Well, were they the last bird in the nest at their parents' house? Do they have classmates who were the last bird in the nest of the parents' house? Are their parents thinking about right sizing? Are they thinking about, you don't know their financial situation? How many of us, when we graduated college, could have, if we were thinking right, back to Matt's conversation, if I wasn't golfing and drinking and getting errant tattoos, could I have taken some of those shekels and bought a duplex and lived in one side and cash flowed the other, paying for the mortgage on the whole thing? Oh, I never thought of that. There's your tip of the day, right? I know you guys have thought of that because you're realtors. Your friends haven't thought of it. I didn't know that was a thing. Can you do that? Can you rent out the other side? Can you charge them for more than the whole mortgage? Won't they know? No, they won't know. Think about your town right now. Think about Jameson the other day. How many owner occupied properties or non-owner occupied properties were there in the Swansea area? 800? All those conversations we're not having with our people. What else we got for questions, comments, concerns?
I know I call a friend that I know that she cannot buy a house, and then she gave me a buyer that I didn't know. So that was pretty good. Like, you never know who's gonna give you something.
You never know. And that's why we do the DTD2. If you guys don't know what that is, DTD2 stands for Do the Database 2. Do the Database 2. If you go into KW Connect, you can download this worksheet, KW Connect, and punch in DTD2. It sounds like the missing character from the next Star Wars film. I know.
Hey, Tim, another question.
Yep.
One time you say something about giving, the referrals to send a little gift card, like a Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Sure.
How much do you say, kind of like you put, like 20, 15?
Honestly, just to not absolutely destroy your budget. And depending on how friendly you are with them, because we are not allowed to advertise or financially reward our civilian friends for the referrals, right? We know that. Say yes. Everybody nod and say yes. Excellent. Yes. I love you. Excellent. So that being said, if I'm going to get them a Dunkin' Donuts card because they love Dunkin' Donuts, there's like 3 people on the planet that live near Canada that still like Tim Hortons, but most of us are like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. Dunkin' Donuts, you probably get away with $5. Your foo-foo friends that go to Starbucks, they probably need 10. Whatever you're comfortable with, right?
Okay.
Whatever you're comfortable with. I would keep it to the price of a coffee, Cynthia. No more than that.
Yeah, because I wanted to send a card and say, thank you so much for the referral. Have a coffee on me, just to send it like that.
And here's my mindset behind that, right? If anybody took psychology in college or high school, you read anything about Pavlov's dogs, and the theory was when they rang the bell, the dog salivated. And it started because they would ring the bell, bring the food out, and the dogs would eat. But then they got to the point where they were holding back on the food and just ringing the bell, and the dog still salivated. Are we calling our clients dogs? No, wait for it. What I want to make sure that we are creating the habit where when someone does something nice for me, there is a reward attached, right? Because we more often than not, as real estate agents, if Trevor sends me Juan and I go to Juan's house to list his home, and I'm not really good at what I do yet, or I just throw up all over myself. There's a nice analogy for 11:40 on a Monday, right? I might screw up. Trevor gave me an at-bat with one of his people. I have to thank Trevor for the opportunity of the at-bat, right? Juan and his family just didn't dig my style, but I still got the at-bat. Thank you, Trevor. Here's $5 for Dunkin' Donuts. And the way I would word that handwritten note with the $5 gift card, hey, Trevor, thanks for the opportunity to meet with Juan and his family. We're in the midst of going over the paperwork. I'll keep you updated, because I will keep him updated, right? And if Trevor tees me up with Juan, and then I get Juan and his family to the finish line, you know what, when we close, and what I would put in the note card is, hey, thank you for the opportunity. Here's a cup of coffee on me. Hopefully the next one can be in person together, right? And then at the finish line, when Juan and his family are moved in, I'm taking Juan and his family, Trevor and his family, and me and my family. What a fiasco that's going to be. And we're going to go out and celebrate Juan's new house. And I'm going to celebrate Trevor, because I'm going to remind everybody. I'm going to remind Juan this happened because Trevor sent me to you. And now, Juan, I need you to send me to your people. Right?
Yep.
So that's my thought process there, is we have to reward them at the ground level. Because otherwise, well, yeah, they gave me a lead, but it didn't work out. Well, let's walk that back. Did it not work out because you sucked, or did it not work out because it was a fake name? Like, Juan's not sending me fake people. Trevor's not sending me fake people. Stands to reason I just choked. And if I choke, that's not their fault, right? It's an at-bat. It's an opportunity to work with their friends. And a lot of people put this on the back of their business cards. The greatest, right? The greatest compliment is the reward of working with your loved ones. The referral of the business of your loved ones, or however you word that. And when you guys get to the end of your career, if you're not referral heavy from your loved ones and fellow agents, that's the other thing, right? We joked about Juan, 300 names on the phone, 400 are ex-girlfriends, and the other 75 are other agents. We always hear that. Well, yeah, to me, I got 300 names on my phone, but half of them are real estate agents. Do they know that you made it through the pandemic? I don't mean alive. Well, I sort of do, right? Do they know that you didn't quit the industry? Do you know that they didn't quit the industry? Are they at a brokerage that is underserving them? And maybe if they played over here with the K and the W, they'd be doing something differently. How many agent referrals are you getting every 12 months? If the number is 0.0, we should probably change our conversations with our fellow agents. How many civilian referrals did you get in the last 12 months? If you're underwhelmed by that metric, we should probably change our conversations. Well, I don't want to bother my friends. Well, then go to Kohl's and fold t-shirts. Said with love. Where are you going to get your business? Right? I don't want to say that. Don't make me say the Z word, something.com. Don't send them a check. All of your business is here. Give me one veteran agent, unmute, and just tell everybody else that I'm not making this up. The heirloom seeds of your business are already in your phone.
He's not making it up.
Amen. Bill Barban, a crisp $30 bill is coming your way, sir. Yeah, it's brain damage that we're not talking to our people. Well, I don't want to be salesy. Don't be salesy. I call Kelly O'Neill. Hey, Kelly, it's Timmy. Tim Lindsay. We play women's volleyball together at UNH. Here comes the first white lie. Oh my God, we were just talking about you. No, she wasn't. I just had to remind her 3 times who I was. But it's still a clunky phone call because I haven't talked to Kelly O'Neill in a long time. Hey, I'm glad I got to hold you. I'm glad this number still works for you. I was talking to Janina back in January when the ball dropped. I gave her a kiss and I said my resolution for 2021 was to talk to everybody that I haven't seen in forever. How are you? How's the family? Ford conversation, right? Hey, how's Bibbity Mutual? It's terrible, Timmy. I've been furloughed for 9 months. I'm in a deep relationship with my cat. I want to go outside, right? She's going to say, how are Janina? How are the boys? How's real estate? Looks crazy. It is crazy. We need listings. We're looking for listings for our buyers for our listings, and talent for our team. The BLT of real estate, right? And I only brought up work because I asked her first and she reciprocated because she has warm blood in her veins and she's human. How's work? She's going to, yeah, how's it going for you? Still real estate? Maybe they don't know. Maybe she doesn't know. I'd be on the phone. She wouldn't see the mic flag. You're in radio now? No, I was in radio. That's what you were doing 50 years ago. That's the last time we talked. I know. It's all my fault. I'm glad I got a hold of you. I can't call Kelly. I haven't talked to her in 7 years. She hasn't called me either. Whoever calls first wins, right? We're overthinking this, guys, for sure. For sure. What else we got? Questions, comments, concerns? How can we help? Any scripts before you guys get off and get on the phones?
I got a question.
Yeah.
I was talking to a lady at my church who I used to be best friends with her son. And she had mentioned her other son was talking about selling his property and wanting to buy a property on the lake somewhere. But thought that they probably weren't ready yet. This might be a year or 2 years out. And she says, please give me your business card. I would like him to get in touch with you. We want to make sure that he deals with you.
Oh, awesome.
What should I do right now in regards to what information should I give them now? Tips that I can get them started. So when that time comes, they're in, the things that they need to do are in order to make it easier when they're ready.
Well, what's the greatest resource in real estate? What do all of our consumers have now that they never had before? The information at their fingertips, right?
Right.
So if you're a veteran agent and you've been at it for a long time, you used to drive around with a paper book. They called the multiple listing service. You had to meet with me in person, right? With a monocle to look at the paper book and check out all the pictures and the numbers. And that's at their fingertips right now. What they don't know about, and we alluded to this earlier on the call, like one of my best things that we can do at our larger market centers, we're 463 here in Portsmouth, licensed agents across 3 states. We've got a pretty decent footprint, and there's, I don't know, as of this morning, probably 705 of us, right? It's the listing coming on the marketplace that they don't know about, the information that they don't know about. So the 2 things that you offer them is your value proposition, which is inherently you and how you deliver the information. So this is the objection handler that I adore, that I think we could use in any situation. So when they said, hey, can I have your card or your information? I want him to get in touch with you. I appreciate that, Teresa. Hey, you know what? It's not really his job to get in touch with me. I want to get in touch with him. Well, yeah, but he's not quite ready yet. Oh, I appreciate that. Here's my concern. Without the information that I can share with him in the next couple of days, he might wait it out too long. And I'm just curious on what's important about waiting for the next few months. What's going to change in the next few months, right? Because we want to get to their motivation. If they want this last summer, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now, they told their kids at Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, and Christmas, this is the last summer, kids. Your father and I are going to South Carolina. None of you can afford the lake house, and we're leaving, right? And this is going to be the last hurrah on the big puddle of Winnipesaukee or whatever lake you're talking about, Trevor. I'm just guessing. So that being said, I love the objection handler of that's exactly why we need to get together. So our initial conversation, Tim, is going to be about, what your plan does look like. And if you can share that information with me so I can put together a roadmap for us, that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, in the grand, and this isn't in a sleazy, disingenuous way, all I want you guys to do is set the appointment. And if you're nearby enough and they're comfortable, then I'm talking foot in the door or lemonade on the deck. If not, we're talking Zoom right here. And I can get into a conversation with you and like, hey, Trevor, nice to see you. Ran into your aunt. She said you're looking to list then buy. And she said you had a time frame of like a few months out. Curious, what's important about a few months out? Well, we don't really want to move until the summertime. So you're talking like the end of June? Yeah, interesting. Do you realize that we got started today, the average sales window is about 90 days? We talked about that earlier, right, guys? So I know right now we're going to be at a closing table by the end of June. Yeah, I guess we're looking at August. Well, Trevor, here's the other opportunity that we have. We could at least start to put together our plan. And you can start to talk about what you're looking for, because I trust the other side of that concern is you're probably thinking about there's not enough on the market right now. But if you and I could have a private conversation, you guys could tell me what you're looking for in a property. And if I could privately find your next home for you, without causing a stir? What if you were first in line at your next house? Would that make a difference? Would that make you think differently about the opportunity? So if we could quietly build a plan, we can hit the play button and tell the universe when you're ready. And you guys are in charge of everything, Trevor. So if the offers aren't great enough, that's fine. If at any point you don't feel comfortable about moving forward, that's fine. Here's my concern. Feel felt found. I truly understand how you feel. We've had a lot of clients that have felt the same way. And what we found is if we start to build a plan that no one needs to know about, this is between you, your family, and me and my team. What if I was able to put together a coming soon for my private office? Because we are allowed to do this within our ecosystems at our market centers, guys, right? Because you guys are going to build this story without fail in the next 12 months. You're going to have stories about how many houses you sold in the coming soon conversation, right? So Trevor, would it be a problem for you and your family if we found your buyer for your home and I privately and quietly found your next home, and all of that happened whenever you're ready? Although here are some of the factors that come into play. Current interest rates, right? You know, like that's the big thing. That's the number one thing right now. Well, they're not going to go up that much. Okay. We don't know that. We don't know that. And it's certainly going to dent your net. Everybody's worried about taking their net that they make and having to spend it on what they're going to buy. Maybe not always. But as soon as that interest rate starts to chirp up, and I don't think the Feds are in a rush to do that. And I also can tell you, I don't think a lot of us on this call know what the Feds are going to do next. I'm not in those meetings, right? So that's exactly why we need to get together, Trevor. Just an exploratory conversation. Because the more we can talk about it, the more I can bring you current market knowledge, and you guys can marinate on that over the coming days. I would just say I'm going to start to future-proof them listing as soon as possible. Only for the fact that it's in their best interest financially to do so, because we just don't know what tomorrow brings.
Mm-hmm.
But if you decide, based on our conversations, if you truly feel that the motivation is locked and loaded on a time frame that August 35th seems like the right date, we'll figure it out. But I'd be doing you and your loved ones a disservice if I didn't bring the information to you today that's happening right now, where you could net more and ultimately on the buyer side save more because of current interest rates. And I understand you don't want to go stand in a driveway and wave your checkbook with 48 other people. I'm going to put into practice the conversation that we're having right now. We're having a very private conversation right now, Trevor. Nobody knows you're going to go online. And I'm going to do that same thing with the next house that you guys want, because it stands to reason in the current marketplace, the house that you guys are looking for isn't for sale yet. That's where I come in.
Mm.
So can you guys meet me tomorrow at 4 or Friday at 5? What works best for you? Right? There's no commitment.
Right.
What did I not say, guys? 4-letter word starts with F that I hate. Didn't say free. I'm happy to do a free Stop saying free CMA, professional home valuation. It's a professional consultation, Trevor. My entire industry, I do not see greatness until you see greatness. Well, I noticed you didn't say it's a free CMA, Tim. You don't charge for it, do you? I charge for everything, Trevor, at the end. You'll be dancing around a closing table. You won't even feel it. Right? We've got to just get better at having those conversations. Honest to God, I love that script so much. That's exactly why we should get together, Mr. Grist. I'm not sure if I'm ready. That's exactly why we should get together. I don't know if the time is right. That's exactly why we should get together. If I sat with you and your loved ones tomorrow at 4, Friday at 5, and continued to ask you questions which helped you uncover the circumstances that you either feel are working for you or against you, would that be a problem?
Or it's more like an opportunity to investigate with them.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I told her. I said, look, I would love to sit with him right now and talk about what their goal is, what their timeline is, because I need to figure some of this out now so I can help them best, because it's a tough market right now. And also she had mentioned that there's some either one in-law still living there or maybe a couple. So I'm not sure if one of them passed away. And she goes, I don't know what they're going to do with the in-law. So I think that might be, they're worried about kicking the in-law out and saying, you need to go on your own now, or a rest home or whatever.
Right. Well, and with the lack of information, I can't really help you at my, I can't give you the greatest service with all the information. And honestly, tomorrow at 4, Friday at 5, we might not have all the information. At least we can start to put together a plan.
And just to say, I have some experience, not necessarily in real estate. 9 times out of 10, these people just need a witness, and that you're just there to observe their process of kind of working it out. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. We're just asking questions so they can uncover their motivation. We're never going to show up and give, I brought the bucket of motivation. Do you want 2 scoops or 3 scoops? We're not bringing motivation to the conversation. We're uncovering their motivation. Just peeling the onion, asking questions. What's important about waiting, right? My biggest concern, Trevor, is that if we don't have the conversation and do an information share, there's an opportunity you might miss. And I've seen that happen, and I just don't want it to happen for you guys, right?
Yep.
So if we get to the end of our conversation and it truly is the end of August, awesome. We can still start to put a plan together. Because I can tell you right now, there's buyers out there. We could sign a purchase and sale in the next 20 minutes. They'll wait till August 35th to move. That's the control you have over the marketplace right now, Trevor. Right?
And let's say that they say, definitely not interested in doing anything for a year or 2. Let's say it's 2. Let's say they're like, look, it's definitely 2 years. We definitely don't want to make a move for 2 years. At that point, I get them in the system and just start staying in contact with them basically after we have that conversation.
Yeah. Again, yeah. What town are we talking about? Get a good idea of what they're looking at and just keep sending those properties to them. Right.
Yeah, and share the app.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I always joke about the married couple in the boat, right? Because Trevor's got this boat and it's parked next to the garage. And if you sold that would free up the cash that you guys need to have the down payment and the whole 9 yards. And finally, Stacy just screams at Trevor. She's like, "Did you see this house? It's exactly what we want." And you've got that stupid boat. Sell the. That's her name. I love it. Yeah. You've got that. If we sold the boat, we could buy the house we want. Like, I don't know what kind of internal conversation is going to happen when you guys start to see the properties going by. It's just I lovingly call it the parade of you just missed another one, right? Mm-hmm. It's just houses going by, and they're coming on the market. To Muriel's point, they're coming on the Cape 39 at a time, and they're showing up with a boyfriend. It's too late. Active pending, active pending, active pending, active pending. But our conversation is, I'm going to go to the house that you want. I'm going to put you first in line, right? Because people aren't doing that. We have a whole bunch of people waiting with their buyers. Very few of us are working for our buyers, right?
Yep.
It's our job to bring the listings to the marketplace. Okay. I hear one more. If you hear yourself today, I've got so many buyers and there's nothing for sale. That's all our fault. Said with love, right? It's our job to create the inventory.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Anybody else? How can we help before you guys jump off? I apologize. We had Corinne who was coming on today and she was sick, and Darren was awesome enough to start, and we'll be back here tomorrow. We're doing a financial conversation tomorrow, and then we're doing closing the deal. That is on Wednesday with Sue Kenyon from our market center. And then Thursday or Friday, I'm not sure what day, we'll have our market center tech trainer, Robert Vincent, doing an all-in tech conversation with some Facebook stuff, more command stuff, just to put a bow on it for you guys. Can I help anybody else with anything else? Closing thoughts, questions?
I just wanted to share, I think some of the best advice that I got from my agent when we were buying our current house, who brought me into Keller Williams. He said, if both parties are a little unhappy at the end of the day, then you've had a good deal. And I thought that was great advice. And it's something that, I plan to use as I start my career and help people on the buying and selling side.
Yeah. We're negotiating it's just like a relationship, right? It's a relationship, and in the grand scheme of things, it's all about compromise, and it's all about meeting in the middle and making sure that ultimately, they netted what they wanted. They're off to get their next house, and your buyers are into a house, and there's no such thing as a 100% house. We have a staff member here in Portsmouth who poured the foundation and built his house. And we were talking the other day, and he's like, oh, I've got so many things I do differently. Even when you build it yourself, it's still not a 100% house. So we've got to be okay with that. When we got to tell that story with candor and care and love to our buyers, right? It's very rare that they're going to move into a house that checks all the boxes. So great point, Amy. I appreciate that. Anybody else? If you guys need anything, you can reach me at tlindsey, TLINDSEY @kw.com. And my cell is 603-834-2856. Thank you for hanging out today, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Tim.
time. Have a great day.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You too.
Bye.